Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast. I have an awesome guest on my show. I will say I'm not in my studio. This is an impromptu. I called Alex on Discord and we started talking, and he's like, "Hey, I'll turn on the video if we do it." And I'm like, "Yes, let's go." So I'm super excited to have Alex on. He's a good friend, and he's living in Germany right now. We'll get into that. I'm obviously in America, but anyway, my shirt that I am wearing today. Well, first of all, I'm Zach Sikora. Spina bifida didn't stop me. It gave me a better excuse to sit down while I take over the world. Today's funny shirt is, it says leg day, and there's a wheelchair underneath pictured underneath of it, and it's not one of my original t-shirts, but it's the one that gave me an idea to create shirts on my podcast, on my t-shirt store. You can get shirts like this at rollingforward.printful.me, and if you have a funny shirt idea, you can throw it in the comments, and the funniest might make it into the shop. So now let's roll into today's episode with Alex. Alex, I'm super excited to have you on the show. One of the reasons is because, I mean, you're a good friend, but we also always get into some really in-depth conversations. We go all over the place with our thoughts and questions, and I don't know anything else. So welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about how we met first and foremost. We should have done a test, but it doesn't matter. I should have looked at that other one and seen
Well, the
what it
other
gave
one, the
us. But
audio probably didn't work because we were on the Discord call.
that's true. We're on Discord as well. So
We have a habit of having audio problems, so if this never makes it out,
right.
practice makes perfect,
If it
progress,
never
not
makes it out,
perfection.
it's a good conversation nonetheless. So,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
almost 1:30 where you are. You're
No,
an
no,
idiot
no.
for
It is
coming on the
almost
show.
2:30.
Oh, it's almost 2:30? Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get the
Wow.
facts straight there.
Why are you starting this at 2:30? You're crazy.
Why are we starting this so late, Wheels?
Well, I am not in my studio, and I don't have everything set up. So you see the StreamYard symbol up in the corner over there. Because I think this is currently, until I figure it out from home, this is probably the best way to do a podcast with somebody from afar, essentially. So
Yeah.
that's
I'm
why.
always the guinea pig on these kind of things.
You are a guinea pig. You are a first. This is the first podcast that I've done from my studio at home, or from my, I guess it's my home office. So as you can see, the background of my studio is not the most
This is the more
presentable.
intimate version of the podcast, right?
This is the most the more intimate version. There's a pi symbol plate back there because my nickname's Wheels 3.14. And then you've got that's a bronze shoe that I got back in tennis. When I was playing wheelchair tennis, that one right there. And then that's
Nice.
a trophy. I don't know, wheelchair
Wait,
tennis.
so the wheelchair tennis trophy is a bronze shoe?
Yeah, I ironically, no. So this was an award I got, Greater Columbus Tennis Association Athlete of the Year or something like that. This was
Nice.
probably back in 2003, 2002. And their standard award is to take one of the athlete's shoes and bronze them. So
Okay. Wow.
that is one of my shoes, and they bronzed it. And yeah, so, and then I've got, I don't know, I think a couple games, maybe a book, whole bunch of fun stuff. So anyway, you have presented us with a couple good questions, but before we do that, let's do a minor introduction. Can you share how we met?
Oh, you want me to share this time?
Yeah, I want you
Yeah,
to
we
share
met
this
on a
time.
phone game, which I like to call the Devil's Game, Summoner's War.
AKA
Um,
Summoner's War. Yeah.
yeah, one of the first major gotcha games, and it definitely got me, and it got you
Yeah.
too. If you see me looking around, there is a little friend that's flying around my chandelier here. Uh,
Crazy.
yeah, that I mean, I am crazy. That's
Yeah.
not even just a little bit, but
Yeah.
there is a bug that is joining this podcast.
Yeah. So we met playing a game called Summoner's War. It's a turn-based RPG kind of thing, and one of those endless, you just farm and farm and farm, and then you battle, and it, it's
Yeah,
it's a fun game at first, but they get you because they're like, hey, buy this pack. There's no ads, which
yeah,
is good, but they
yeah.
they really have got a good model of like making things super rare in the game, and you're like, oh, I want to spend money to play and get good and all that. So
Well, like the rare units are also more powerful, right? And the gambling aspect of like, and we've talked about this, like every time you summon something rare, there's like a bunch of lightning that pops up on the screen. And we
yeah,
used to call it like chasing lightning. You know, you would just summon and chase lightning.
yep,
And I remember one night there was you, Lucy, and me on a Discord call, and you guys were spending money chasing lightning. And I was like, I got 10 scrolls saved up. Like, I'm just gonna summon them. And I summoned two Nat 5s, like, which are the rarest units, back to back. And you
yeah,
guys got so pissed. Or when you saved up all your summoning stones to get an
yeah,
Odin, and then I did
uh,
one summon and I got my second Odin.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I remember
and the
that.
thing is, like, when you're playing competitively, there are certain units that, like, as in any
Uh,
game, they define the meta,
yeah,
and especially like the style of game that, or the mode that we both enjoyed the most was siege battles, where you had multiple teams of 3 units, and there were certain units that you just really needed if you wanted to play competitively. And so
hmm,
you were kind of forced to either buy packs or get really lucky.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think of Summoner's War in one way. My first girlfriend, and at the time, she's like, "You're never gonna get anything out of that game," because I was always playing it on the side. Well, she's not around, and a friend of mine now from that time, we're still friends,
yeah,
and we've talked over Discord for lifetimes. Legit, I visited him in New York and
oh
spent
yeah,
the weekend there.
yep,
Like, it's kind of interesting. It definitely was. I think I have to kind of revise my statement earlier. I think the art team plays a huge point in like why that game was successful, but also like the people,
yeah.
right? Like
People for
there's
sure.
so many amazing people that were playing that game, like
Yeah,
Bumble, I
yeah.
mean, Dizzy,
Busy.
uh,
Yeah.
the Shazard, who was in our D&D campaign. He'd also played it back then, like
Okay.
I mean, like, there's people from the whole like Cali Kings thing before I met
Yeah.
you, Kaladin, and um, man, like, I can't even remember all the people. I mean, hundreds of people that I met from different guilds and different points in the game and different things. Bex, I
Yeah.
mean, shit, Adam, Smasher, like we could go on and on
Yeah.
and on just about people.
Yeah.
It's a really cool community.
Yeah. It really was. The Discord chats and the strategizing on Discord, and just like, I just hanging out on Discord was a great time. And then,
And you never got into RTA either. Like real time arena was actually really fun.
yeah, I mean, I could never get into it. I tried. It was just too slow for me. Somebody on my account got G1, for anybody that
Yeah,
knows what that
easily,
is. So, um,
easily.
you
Homie
think
has
so?
like the best units in the game, and it's just like, you know what? I don't like this. Like,
Yeah, I had the best units for that specific part of the game. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of good siege units like um I don't know. The
we'll agree to disagree
doesn't
on this
matter.
point.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. They weren't the best for Siege. But anyway, so okay,
Summoner's War.
so that's yeah, that's how we met. We met through Summoner's War, and you obviously you're living in Germany. You don't have an accent, so can you explain where you came from and all that?
No, I can't explain where I came from, but I can explain how I got here.
Okay,
Um,
that works.
I was born in Germany. My mom is American and my dad is German. So obviously my dad lives in America and my mom lives in Germany. Um, my my parents bounced around a lot, not military based, but just they never could really decide which continent they wanted to live on.
Yeah,
And so I was born here in Germany, but I grew up in America. Then I came back to Germany, back to America, kind of like a ping pong ball with me being the ping pong ball and Germany, America being the paddles, just smacking me back and forth.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
when I was old enough to decide where I wanted to live, I tried to live in California. Um, California is a bit of a tidal wave, you know, and if you can't stay ahead of that wave, it will run you over.
yeah.
And that's definitely what happened to me. I was in a lot of dark places,
Mhm.
but I had an opportunity to come back to Germany. Worked in the fiber optics business for a couple of years, splicing cables and, you know, doing that whole thing in data centers, which was a really interesting experience. Also working for Google and Microsoft and Amazon and all of that.
Yeah,
Kind of burnt me out. Now I'm just working at a mechanic shop, basically like the legal version of a chop shop, and we just take apart old Mercedes, sell the parts online.
mhm.
Um, Learn a lot from my boss, a lot of long hours, but it's fun.
Cool. You have an interesting necklace on.
Oh, it's a cassette.
Yeah. Can you explain what drew you to a necklace like that?
I love music,
Yeah,
90s kid, you
yeah.
know. A lot of
And
people probably don't even remember cassettes anymore, but I grew up on cassettes and
yeah,
that whole era. And I don't know. I found it one day. It was pretty cheap, and I've just kind of gotten used to it now.
yeah. And you record your own music to put that
Not
on
so much
blast.
anymore.
You
Yeah,
have.
not so much. I did used to. I
Yeah,
really wanted to be part of like the music industry, and
yeah,
I tried very much to do so. I've
yep,
written thousands of lyrics,
yeah.
produced hundreds of songs, thousands of instrumentals, other artists, demo tapes, mixtapes, a couple songs that got released by other artists. I worked in merchandise. I worked in security. I worked in event management. I worked as a roadie. If there was a job in the music industry, I probably tried it.
Mm,
Ghostwriter, everything. It's a really disgusting type of industry, though. Very exploitative. It's also not really easy. It's a big popularity contest. I
yeah.
just love creating music. Ever since I was a kid, I really loved music
Mhm.
and just like I have also synesthesia. So like when I hear music, I see like colors, patterns, images, and things like
Okay.
that. So it's been something that was always a bit of magic to me.
Yeah.
Um, Huge difference though between the music industry today and like back in the day with the music that I really fell in love with is back in the day, recording technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. So they had these like reels and they would basically record the sound onto these like tape reels essentially.
Uh-huh.
And the artists had to be so on point because they only had so much time that they could actually record something on, and the tape would get wasted if they messed up, right? So they
Uh,
had to be really meticulous about their craft and really like perfect.
yeah.
There were things like punch in edits and stuff like that where you could edit certain parts, but it was difficult to do and it would also waste tape. Nowadays, through the digital age, anyone can record basically anything anywhere. All you
Yeah.
really need is a laptop and a microphone. I mean, in some cases, not even that. And
Yeah.
while it has enabled a whole new generation of artists to thrive and like the bedroom musicians, it also has changed the process that like editing has become a huge part of all of it,
Yep.
and it's taken a little bit of the magic away from it as we move more and more into digital. I mean,
Yeah.
talking about it nowadays, you have AI programs where, and I have a lot of fun with them too. You know, like Suno is a great one
Hmm.
that actually has a really good model for it. And
Hmm.
so my recording setup basically got busted while ago. My laptop died with all my music
Oh no.
software. It's life, you know. I could have backed up my stuff earlier. I kept pumping the hard drive full and full, like to the point where literally my computer couldn't even start up anymore. Um,
Oh,
Kind of besides the point, though.
you still
The
have
point I
it?
was trying to make. No, I lost most of it. I have some
Um,
things backed up and on Google Drives and stuff like that, but I lost like probably 85% of everything I ever made. Anything that
whoa.
wasn't released, at least.
Oh no.
But Suno is an interesting thing because for me, someone who really loves the songwriting process over everything else, I can then just throw that into the AI and tell it what kind of song I want, and then just generate multiple iterations of it until I find something that I like. So that's been
Ah.
something fun to do on the side. Um, Also like the writing aspect, I've always wanted to be like a writer more so
Mm.
even than a musician. When I
Yep.
started making music, I was like, oh, this will be a great start to write. You know, if I just start writing songs, they're shorter. Little did I know the writing process between a song and a book is vastly different.
Yeah.
Um, but the
It's
thing
still fun
about
for you
like,
though.
yeah, it is. It's really, really just a really fun thing to do, and feeling like taking the pressure of wanting to succeed at something that you love lets you
Yeah.
just enjoy what you love. And
Yeah.
so I was actually able to, you know, kind of treat it as a hobby. And ironically, at that point, you know, people were like, oh my God, it's so good. Like, you're going to be famous one day. And I'm like, I just do this for fun. Like,
Mm.
this has no expectation in it at all anymore.
Yeah.
The irony was that then people actually started liking it. You know, my dream was just to make a song that people would want to listen to again after they heard it, and
Yeah.
that didn't happen until I was like, I'm done being a musician.
Uh,
I'm done being an artist. Um,
wow. Well, so what have you gotten into from a writing standpoint?
so I'm working on the book idea that I've been kind of crafting for like 4, 5, I think maybe even 6 years now.
Hmm.
Recently, I've met someone who is kind of turned into a bit of a writing partner.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, I can't even really say that it's my book idea anymore because he's brought so many interesting things to the table in even just 2 sessions that
Oh,
I think it's already our idea.
cool.
And I'm really looking forward to see like what it's going to grow into. And
Yeah.
that took a long process. I think when you create something and you get really married to the idea of it, it kind of becomes your baby.
Yeah.
And then taking like input, criticism, ideas that are like not necessarily in the framework that you imagined can be very tough.
Hmm.
And so I'm glad that it took this long for me to get to this point because now I'm like, oh, I just want this to be real. You know,
Yeah.
I just want this to exist.
Right.
And he's brought some really interesting ideas to the table, and I'm really looking forward to working with him more on the story.
Great. Yeah. Um, okay, so I don't think we mentioned this. We had a couple takes, guys, because we failed miserably. I failed
It's
miserably at doing this. But
a
one
learning
of the
curve.
one of the things is, so I called you on my way home and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" We were catching up, and then you said this awesome analogy that I just thought
The quote.
was so awesome, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we need to put this into a podcast." And I want you to tell your quote because it's such a profound and cool analogy. So can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, by the way, your audio is cutting in and out at times. Is that happening
Oh,
only for me?
it's not. If I do this, is it cutting out right now?
No, like the screen
versus
goes black and then there's like a circle
oh,
every now and then.
there's not a black circle for me, but
It might
you
just be lag in the
is my audio
stream.
cutting out?
Yeah, just briefly. It's always only like for a second or so. But it
Uh,
wouldn't be a podcast between the two of us if there wasn't technical
if there
difficulties.
wasn't technical difficulties, yeah, that's
Yeah.
so true. For
So
the
the
record, real quick, we did record a podcast a couple weeks ago at least, and
it's been
he
a
wouldn't.
couple months.
It has it really?
Yeah.
He wouldn't turn on his video, and I'm a big advocate of like viewers being able to see the people. So we recorded a podcast. He actually interviewed me. It was pretty cool. But the first,
That's the real reason he doesn't want to release it.
yeah, maybe, yeah. The first part of the podcast was him asking me questions, and it was a lighter the lighter side of things. And I realized that I didn't have the Discord audio going at all, and it was like
Yeah.
his audio is coming through the Discord, and so it was basically a video of me going and then responding. So you couldn't hear his voice or his questions or even his response to my answers or anything like that. So it was a
Hey, but
bummer.
the second part is, I mean, I've never heard it since we did it, but like as I remember it is legendary.
The second part was fire. I yeah,
Yeah,
it
we
was
got real deep, man.
we did get super deep. It was pretty awesome. And you have more questions for us. But before we do that, you have an analogy that you gave that was just I
Oh
just loved
yeah,
it so
hype it
much.
up some more.
The
Yeah.
analogy. Let's go. Wait, countdown. Three, two. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of based around like what I'm going through in life, like the things that I'm doing right now and the struggles that I'm dealing with. It's like sandcastles that I'm building, right? But I'm building them at the beach. And I was telling you how like I'm building these sandcastles that could be crushed by any oncoming tide, but the flip side of that thing is that I'm also the tide that can crush the sandcastle. And
Yeah.
so the duality of that is essentially that I'm building something that could collapse at any point in time, but that I'm also the main source of like its destruction.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's been kind of the theme of my life is that as I build things, I'm usually the one to burn them down. And
Yeah.
so this is the first time where I'm just really focusing on building things and keeping that tide at bay to not run over it. And it's something that is like, I think in a lot of ways of life, consistency is key and showing up on a daily basis is
Yes.
key.
Hmm.
Because if you rest too much on comfort and you kind of get too complacent with things, that tide will rise and that wave will crash eventually.
Yeah. 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 That's such a profound analogy. And on one hand, it's comforting because you're in control. And as long as you don't let the waves crash down on your sandcastle, you're fine. But on the other flip side of that, that's super scary because you're in control, and there's I think everybody has moments of their life that they can think about that they've let those waves, those tides come and just tear down their sandcastle with whatever it is. Um, and that's such a scary moment. And all it doesn't take much, like if you spend your life building a bridge and then one spark lights it on fire and the entire bridge burns down,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done.
And I don't know if other people can relate to this as much, but I was the type of person for most of my life that if there was a bridge, I would burn it down before someone else could,
Ah,
right? So, like, the potential that you could hurt me was scary enough for me to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna burn this bridge down before you can. Like I'm
yeah,
gonna press that button before you can. I'm just gonna blow it up because then it's like controlled demolition,
right.
right?
Right.
And then that way it's not you hurting me, it's me just shutting the door on the pain that could come
Yeah.
down the line.
Right. Huh.
And so I would burn that bridge to the ground. I mean, my motto for a very long time in my life was like, well, let's see how bad it can get.
Yeah. 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 Wow. That's profound. If you're comfortable sharing, do you have a time in your life where you did do that? And I don't know.
Many, many. I think pretty much any relationship really that I was in, any opportunity. I mean, like job things too. If we're going from like concrete things, there's oftentimes jobs, and when I felt like, oh, this might not work out, like I'd be like just really slack off or quit something.
Yeah.
Projects, music, anytime that things got tough, and I felt like, oh, this is in jeopardy,
Mhm.
it might not even be the case. It might be just something that I perceived at the moment. That was then something that I would just destroy. Relationships were like that too. I think there's two major like relationships with a female that like, I mean, okay, that's a weird way to say it, but I mean, there's also friendship relationships and
Yeah.
familial relationships, but I mean like relationship with a
Dating.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, like dating and like girlfriends,
Yeah.
that I really tried to not do that. And that that did not work out so well, because on the flip side of things, sometimes you have to let things go.
Yeah.
And especially like loving something that hurts you.
Mm.
And like there were two girlfriends that I had in very different ways that was really not good for me, and I tried to hold on to that
Mm.
until it almost like killed me.
Yeah.
Very different ones. And I think this is also something that we learn in time with relationships, is that what works with one person does not necessarily work with another person. And so when
Yeah.
I got out of my first relationship, I was like, okay, well, now I know how relationships work. And now I know all the things that I'm going to do differently in the next relationship.
Yeah.
And the next relationship came around, and I did all those things in that next relationship. But hey, this is another person.
Mm.
And they did not need those things,
Yeah.
which was like, in the first relationship, I wasn't very present. I didn't want to do things. I just wanted to hang around at home. I just wanted to like kick it, make music. I didn't really want to engage that much. I wasn't present very often.
Yeah.
So the next relationship that came around, I was like, I'm going to be super present, and I'm going to like want to do things. And she just
Mm.
wanted to hang out at home and kick it and relax and like take it easy. And
Yeah.
if I would have done things like reverse, and like for each other person, like those relationships probably would have worked out a lot better. But
Yeah.
um, them's the breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I think one of my things that I do is and I've gotten so much better over the about this over the years is avoid. So like I get very addicted to games. And so I try not to play them as much as possible, but sometimes I go down a path and I neglect things, and that burns bridges by neglecting. So
Yeah,
um
yeah.
and yeah, I mean,
That's definitely what happened in my first relationship as well. There was a lot of neglect on my part.
yeah,
It's really easy to be like, well, this person did this and that, but it's very often that we play a part in things,
yeah,
and looking
right,
at that and showing accountability for those kind of things is tough. It's
yeah,
some of the hardest things that we do,
yeah,
is to look and be like, hey, well, yeah, I actually did this and this and this, and that led to the reactions down the line.
yep. Yeah, that's awesome. I so we have a list of questions um that we can get into that you have brought up. Um, would you like to get into those?
Hey, it's your show, man.
All right. Let's do that. So, um, let's see. What is? Let me ask you this. Just because, so we've known each other for what, 4 or 5 years at least,
At least.
at
I
least.
would say probably like 2019, so it's probably around 6 years now.
Yeah. The
Like
other
right
cool
as
thing,
COVID started.
the other cool thing, let's get into this for a quick second. So you and I have never met in person, and
True.
I think that's a really cool thing to kind of shout out because we got really close over Discord and
Yeah.
doing various things. And one of the crazy things that I noticed about like Discord friendships is you can be more yourself, and it almost doesn't matter because they don't know you in real life. So like you can be you. I guess you can be some
Yeah.
random strange made up person as well, but I think you get into more real conversations, and I don't know.
Well, I agree with that. I think especially around that time, we were all kind of living through all our alter egos, I'll say,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like our in-game names. I mean, this is why like in the course of this podcast, you guys might hear Wheels call me MX. That
yeah,
was my username. I call him Wheels because that was his username.
yep,
And there's a degree of like when you're wearing that mask and you have a bit of distance and anonymity that you can be a little bit more vulnerable and honest.
yeah,
And I think like the thing is like we talk about things with each other throughout our friendship that I probably haven't talked with like some of the closest people in my life,
right,
like a lot of family and friends. I wouldn't talk about those things just because there's like a different kind of mask that we wear in those type of relationships. Oftentimes there's an expectation of who we should be
yep,
and what people come to like expect of us.
yeah,
So it's something that like I realized later on, like at that time, I was running with like pretty much a good group of friends, like people that I still care deeply about, but we were rather a rough crowd,
hmm,
and showing weakness was not really on the table.
yeah,
It's something that I'd try at times to bring up, but if it's like, oh, I'm in love with this girl and things aren't working out, I feel terrible about it, I don't know what to do about it. They'd be
yeah,
like, well, just find another girl, like
right,
stop being such a bitch.
yeah,
Like there's no nicer way to say it, and that's already the nice way of saying it, based off like the way that they would speak about it.
hmm,
It very much was that like man up, like don't cry, focus on money, grind kind of mentality.
yeah,
And like with you and the Discord bros, if we want to call it that,
sure, yeah,
um, it was just honest conversations.
yeah,
And, we had a few renegades that were just off the wall. Like Lucy is one of the most insane
yeah,
people I've never met,
right,
essentially.
right,
And he would instigate conversations in ways that really drove me up the wall a couple times.
yeah,
But like with you and Bumble and like then also later on like the D&D group and like
yeah,
um there was I think her username or character name was Alita.
hmm,
Her name was Brittany. Like she taught me so much about like life and like love as like an action verb and not as like a noun or so
yeah,
much a feeling, and
oh,
like honest conversations where like I don't know, face to face, like she was very attractive. Like I don't know if I would have felt comfortable enough to actually have those kind of conversations with her.
yeah,
And it's that distance that's created between a screen when you're just like speaking like over the phone essentially,
right,
just voice chatting, that you can really dive into some topics without anything else. It's just like souls exchanging information without the prejudice of the visual input.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It's crazy. I with the streaming stuff, I've always thought like, being a new streamer, I'm sure there's like a Discord group of new streamers and stuff like that, but I've not ever, I haven't tackled that yet. So that's definitely been on like my to do list of things that, man, I think there's you can do things by yourself and alone and try to figure it out with chat gpt or whatever else, but it's always good doing it with other people. So yeah,
And you
if
can
it
also create that if it doesn't exist.
that's true. That's so true. Yeah, that
Oh,
I
I
didn't
almost
even think
got
of it.
him.
Did you get it? Did you get the
No,
bug?
it landed
Dang
right
it.
in front of me, but I saw it too late.
Oh,
Uh,
dang it.
he's
Um,
along for the ride today.
yeah, okay, so you do you want to talk about how you might be moving back to the US?
I mean, sure.
Okay.
Uh, it's because of you.
I'll let you leave with it. Because of me. That's funny.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it happened, right? You're like, we did the
Yeah.
podcast without me having the camera on, and you were like something along the lines of like next time, like the camera. I don't remember exactly how we even started the conversation. And then you were like, oh, you could use the podcast studio too. And I basically just said something. I'm like, oh, if you have a place for me to live, like I'll be there.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I got a room I can rent. And then I was like, all right, let me rephrase that. If you have a place for me to live and a job for me to work, then I'll be there. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, actually, we could figure that out too. And then I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah. I
this
mean, I,
seems pretty interesting. And
yeah.
then we just started spitballing like ideas, kind of brainstorming how that would work and how it, yeah, I mean, Ryan or Dizzy,
Yeah.
however we want to call him, lives with you as well.
Yep.
And also another person from Summoner's War that I saw, and I stayed with him in Vegas, and he came out to California for my birthday, and we went camping together.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah.
And the idea of living in a community with the both of you
Yeah.
just sounds super appealing.
Yeah.
And I think I'm also at a chapter in my life where going somewhere I've never been and writing a completely new story in a new place just seems very attractive to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, it'd be awesome if you can make it happen. So
Yeah,
I'm looking
there's a lot
forward
more to
to it.
figure
So.
out than I thought, though,
Yeah,
life.
of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a lot. We were initially thinking a couple months, like 4 or 5 months, but I
Yeah,
don't know if that timetable's realistic, but it's
it's
ambitious.
definitely not, I was very
Yeah,
idealistic about it.
yeah,
And there's just a lot of things that, like, I could leave next month
yeah,
and be there, right? But I
yeah,
would leave such a mess behind me
yeah,
and so many loose ends. And
mm,
to really like leave with a fresh start, there's just things that I have to face and things that I have to do and take care of so that I can leave with a clean slate,
mm. You sound
because
like you're
at
in
the
the
point,
mafia and you gotta you gotta bury
yeah,
the
yeah.
bodies or something. Yeah, right.
No. No, I mean it's just like
Sneaky.
it's simple things, like there was a time between jobs when I wasn't earning that much money. I took out a loan. I got to make sure that that's paid off. There's insurance things that I have to take care of. I
Yep.
have to figure out with all the stuff that I've accumulated over like a lifetime of living on two continents. I've
Yeah.
now basically gotten a lot of the stuff from America shipped over here to Germany because I thought I was staying here.
Yep.
Regardless, I had to get rid of a lot of that too. It's too much junk, like I
Yeah.
think we accumulate a lifetime of things. Like, how much do we actually need of those?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me, it's like actually not that much. So I'm working on selling a lot of those things,
Yep.
just shrinking down my life to a point where it's more manageable
Yeah.
to move to another continent in a new city.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we look forward to the day that that happens. So,
Me
um,
too.
okay, so let's go with some fun questions before we get more serious. What's an embarrassing moment that still haunts you?
That's the fun question.
That's a
Sorry.
fun
Okay.
question.
What's an embarrassing moment that
Yeah, what's an embarrassing moment that still haunts you?
that's so fun. Yeah, yeah. Um,
It's fun for the viewers.
oh man, let me think about that. You know, there's one moment that comes to mind instantly, and it was like seventh grade. There was
Mhm.
this girl that I had the biggest crush on,
Yeah.
and like we were walking away from the school on like some kind of field trip or something, and I was like, Ava, Ava, hey, 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 and I wasn't paying attention where I was walking. I walked right into a signpost,
Oh no.
just bong.
Oh no. Uh,
Yeah, and she definitely saw it because I called her name out like five
and
times, and
she
she like
turned
looked
around and
over,
she turned
and
around
right as
and
I
witnessed it.
like smacked, yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. I don't think I'll
I
ever really live that down.
That's interesting. You reminded me of one of the embarrassing moments that I had. So in middle school, I was in sixth or seventh grade or something like that, and I would go really fast in my wheelchair, and there's a huge open area in our middle school, and in the middle of this open area is a pole, and I cut across the big open area to get to one of these classrooms that I don't know, maybe late for or something. I don't know why I was going so fast, probably because I was a kid and I like to go fast, but anyway, there's very few people in this area. I think everybody's in class or something like that, and there's a few upperclassmen, some eighth graders that are walking in this room as well. And I go super close to this pole, and I get so close to the pole that my front wheel hits it, or my side wheel hits it, and I just go flying out of my wheelchair.
Oh
And
no.
oh yeah, I it was bad. Like because I was going so fast and I just flew out of my wheelchair and my wheelchair like rolled a little bit as well.
Oh
And
no.
it's a metal wheelchair, so and it's tiles, so it made such a big noise. And these
Yeah.
upperclassmen looked over and they're like, oh, and it's the funniest thing. Being in a wheelchair when you fall out of your wheelchair because like people think that you're like re-injured yourself or something. They think you broke like your legs again or whatever else, and that like people freak out. And so these eighth graders came over and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I can walk a little bit, so I was embarrassed, but I don't know why I pulled this off or how I pulled this off in the moment thinking about it. I wasn't injured or anything like that, but they came over and I was on the ground and I reached up and they gave me their hand and I stood up and I I looked down as I'm holding on to him still, and I look down and I look back up and I go, "Oh my gosh." And I move my legs around and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like, "Thank you. I'm cured. I'm cured." And he goes, "No way, no way." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And he goes, I don't know. I let it drag on for a little bit, and then finally I got back in my wheelchair. I'm like, "Nah, man, I could already walk. Thanks for helping me up and all that." So, I turned an embarrassing moment into, I guess, a funny story. So,
Yours
yeah.
was better than mine. That's for sure.
Your poll story, but my poll story was better than your poll
Yeah,
story.
for sure, for sure.
That's hysterical.
Mine was only embarrassing. Like,
Yeah, I suppose I don't know how you could turn yours around and make it not embarrassing, but
just black out, just get fully knocked out, and then just wake up the next day and be like, I don't remember it. Like,
of her like stoop down, like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then she takes care of you, and you start dating, and
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
married
that would
later,
be
and
the thing, you know?
yeah, yeah, right. Anyway, okay. What about how has Germany? No, I don't want to do that one. Let's do this. What's if your life were a video game, what level would you be on? Ooh, that's actually a great question.
So, like, what level in the game or what level as a character?
I'm gonna leave this open to interpretation.
Okay, because I feel like I've been going through a lot of growth. I'm probably
Yeah,
like a mid-game level character now. I've
yeah.
finally gotten out of the early game.
Did you get it?
And yeah, I got it.
All right.
Murder.
Eat it.
Um,
Eat it for
yeah,
streams. Eat it for
that's those
content.
no, no. I'm not Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh man.
That's those mid-game character skills though.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
right.
I don't know. I feel like for a long time I was like stuck on like level 10 character, like just dicking around Noob Village.
Yeah,
But a lot of life happened, a lot of growth happened. I feel like
yeah,
I've definitely leveled up a lot.
yeah.
Um, what part of the game am I on? It feels like the part where the game opens up, you
Mm,
know, like where I feel like I've finally gone through like the tutorial. I've
yeah.
done like the essential main quest things, and
Uh-huh.
they're like, here's the open world. Like, what do you want to do? And I'm like,
Interesting.
I finally get to leave? Like, that's great. Like, amazing.
Mm. Yeah, the sky's the limit with potential in general. But I mean, you have so much potential. So I can't wait to see what happens in a couple
I
of years.
hate that word so much.
Why?
Oh man, potential, right? Like the gift and the curse of potential.
Yeah.
First of all, potential means that you're not there yet in a
No.
lot of ways,
Yeah.
right? And the second thing is like the burden of potential, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're a very like talented kid or like intelligent kid or any kind of thing with where you excel above the average,
Yeah.
people tell you all these things of like, oh, you could do this and you could be that. And the thing is that like no one ever says that like, hey, if you don't do any of those things, you're still okay. Like we
Yeah.
still love you and you're still
Right.
great.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't achieve any of those things. And
Right.
the second thing is talent and potential means, can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah.
Talent and potential means fuck all compared to dedication and
Yeah.
consistency.
True. Oh
If
my
you're
gosh.
talented,
Say that
but you
again.
don't,
Go ahead.
talent and dedication means fuck all to, what did I say, to dedication and consistency.
Yeah.
Let me say it again for the clip. Talent and dedication. No, I'm already fucking it up. Uh, talent and potential mean fuck all to dedication and consistency.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one.
And you were gonna
Because I mean,
elaborate on that.
yeah, I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not 100% lucid. So forgive me for that one.
It's only 9
Um,
p.m. It's only 9 p.m. What are you talking about?
sounds nice.
Hey, in Cincinnati,
Um,
you in Germany.
yeah. So the thing is, like, if you're not talented at something, but you really want it, there's gonna be a ceiling that you reach where then eventually talented and dedicated people will burst past it.
Yeah.
And this is in like when it comes to like professional music, when it comes to athletes, there are geniuses that work as hard as the hardest worker.
Yeah.
And you know, like there's this saying, the public praises people for what they practice in private.
Hmm.
And that is absolutely true when it comes to a lot of things, you know. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, he's an overnight success."
Mm.
Yeah, the success maybe happened overnight, but there's like years and years of dedicated practice that led up to that success
Yeah.
overnight, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, complacency is something that creeps in if you're just talented and you don't do the work. Like if you're just talented at something and you're like for me, school, I didn't have to study and I could
Yeah.
get A's and B's, occasional C. I'd pass every test. I hated homework, but like I didn't have to study
Mm,
forever. And then eventually, like especially in Germany, the school I was going to was a lot harder than in America. It wasn't multiple choice and stuff like that. I
mm,
eventually got to a point where I was like, oh, like I can't just get by on things anymore.
mhm.
I actually have to put in some work.
Yeah. So
And that
there's
was tough.
yeah, yeah. I bet one thing I was just googling real quick. It's a quote. A book by Atomic Habits.
Oh, I love that book.
It's a Atomic Habits book by James Clear, and the
I
quote is, "You
recommended this on the last podcast too.
did you really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay." But the quote that I've heard from like Chris Williamson, I believe he's the one that I heard this from first.
Yeah.
Is
I
you
already
do
know
not,
which one you're talking about. You're talking about the systems, right?
yeah, it's you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, and
Mm-hmm.
that
Absolutely.
you just quoted that essentially in your own words, and that's so true.
Yeah. And that is a
Consistency and
brilliant
hard work.
quote because it is like goals don't really mean that much. A
Mhm.
lot of us can write down goals and everything, but it's like break down those goals into things like the whole thing with the podcast studio, right? Like
Yeah,
I was your accountability partner for a lot of this,
yeah,
and all we really did is break it down into actionable steps.
yep,
And they talk about too is like be a laser, don't be a light bulb,
right,
right? Like when you try to do a goals list, don't write 30 goals for a week and
yeah,
do one of them, like take 3 goals, focus on that. Some people can do more, but especially in the beginning when you're really just trying to work on it, break it
yeah,
down to 3 ones that you're going to do that week. Laser
right,
focus on those goals and then go to the next step. Laser focus. And we talked about this in the last podcast too, but like being a laser, not a light bulb. Don't
yeah,
shine a little bit of light onto a million things. Focus on the things that are important and go to that. And when it's writing a book too, like if I working out, I think also even maybe a better example for me. I oftentimes am like I go through spurts of working out like a lot, and I'll
mhm,
work out for 2 months super intensely, and then I won't work out for like 2 or 3 weeks, and a
yeah,
lot of the progress that I made gets lost
yeah,
because I don't consistently focus on it and consistently put that effort in.
yeah,
And it's with anything in life that you're trying to do,
right,
like the systems that you put into place are essentially things that are going to get you where you want to go. And they
yeah,
will get you to your goals. But if you just aimlessly chase after goals and are like, hey, I'm going to lose 1,000 pounds, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, I'm going to lose 100 pounds, whatever, 1,000 is a bit unrealistic, but like I'm going to lose 100
everyone
pounds.
would be dead except for maybe one
Yeah.
person that exists in the United States, in the world. I don't know.
Some big Berta. Um, let's say like you want to lose 100 pounds, right?
Yeah,
And you don't do anything.
mhm,
Well, your goal was to lose 100 pounds.
yeah,
Why didn't it happen?
yeah,
It's because you didn't do anything.
yeah.
And
So
if you
true.
do nothing, you can't expect something to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
This
You
is
know,
ridiculous.
I I heard. So by the way, I've lost like 36 pounds.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the year, so I'm pretty excited about that. But Jimmy Carr, I think I was listening to a podcast with him, and he's a stand-up comedian, but he's so intellectual when you listen to him. He's from Great Britain, for those that don't know, but Jimmy Carr was talking about like um basically beating himself up over not doing something. And like for example, like I'm fat. One of the things that I used to do is I used to beat myself up for being fat. Like I'd get really hard mentally on myself. Like, dude, you got to do something about this. And the craziest part. Well, maybe this isn't crazy, but that didn't work. That never worked. What worked was hey, Zach, this is gonna be hard. There's not gonna be a path to lose weight that's gonna be easy, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to take action on it. You have to do something, and you have to do it now. And that
Yeah, and
really
any bit of
resonated with me.
change that you do is going to be some of the hardest things you ever do in your life.
Yeah,
Like really changing something. If it were easy, you would have already done it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
also just to touch on it, like stand-up comedians are some of the most intellectual people. Not every single stand-up comedian, but
Right.
most of them
Yeah,
are just so intelligent. Like
they are.
it takes a lot of brains to have like put things into the perspective of humor. You have
Yeah.
to understand things on a really fundamental level
Mhm.
to highlight. And I mean, there's different types of stand up,
Yeah.
but there's like also conversational stand up. Some
Mhm.
people just have like a lot of attitude. Bill Burr is a great person that just like he talks about like his
Yeah.
perspective with his attitude,
Yep.
and that is something that like really resonates with a lot of people because he ends up saying a lot of things that people think but don't feel comfortable enough to voice or maybe don't
Yes.
have the eloquence to put into words.
Yep.
Dave Chappelle is the type of stand-up comedian that is more of a storyteller.
Yeah.
So he will run you, and he's mastered his craft to the point of where he will run you through a story and he already knows like where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And there's this one thing where he talks about, he says the punchline of a joke and he's like, I'm working on a joke where like I'm trying to use this punchline and I forget what the punchline is, but then he tells this story and it ends up with that punchline and he's like, I told you I was good at this. Like
Yes.
there's so many different styles to stand up. I have so much respect for stand up comedians
There
and
are. Yeah.
um Ali Sadiq, I think is his name.
Uh-huh.
Another person that just basically tells his life experience but
Uh-huh.
with his humor and style. And in one of his stand-up shows, he literally breaks down and cries and grieves for his sister who died,
Wow.
and then pulls the set back together and finishes it.
Wow.
And yeah, man, stand-up comedians are man, like they've been such an inspiration for me in so many depressing, like dark times. Like stand-up
Yeah.
comedians have helped pull me out of that. George Carlin, obviously one of the best of all time too,
Mhm.
able to like really put things into perspective.
Yeah.
Also super intellectual about like things like politics and
Yeah.
um yeah, just great perspectives.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so another question. Let's get into the podcast question. So the podcast question, you've probably heard it before, but what keeps you rolling forward?
I think my answer to that has changed a lot over the years.
Sure.
Right now, I think the thing is just a bit that saying of like in the end it will be okay and if it's not okay it's not the end
Oh, in the end, it'll be
because
okay. And if it's not the end,
if it's not okay it's not the end.
and if it's not okay, it's not the end. Whoa. Whoa, that's good. Okay, one more time.
In the end it'll be okay and if it's not okay it's not the end.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm
I
guessing you're
love
going to
that.
use these for like little clips.
No, no, no. Well, maybe, but I like to I like to hear it for myself a second time. But I also think
Okay, okay.
like when it's profound like that, it takes a moment to kick
To
in.
click. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah,
just like
so
I like hearing them again. They're very poetic, right? So it's just I don't know.
what I mean with that too is like for me my cousin died at 32,
Sorry to hear
33,
that.
like right in between the two. He took a essentially, as far as I understand it, and I haven't read the toxicology reports, but he died from a hot pill. Took a muscle relaxer spiked with fentanyl,
Ooh.
fell asleep, didn't wake up again.
Wow.
And that was for me really a pivotal point because he was like Superman to me.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, well, if nothing can happen to Johnny, like he's invincible, like
Yeah.
he's gonna be fine. And I think most of us go through a point in time where, the kind of delusions of youth fade away,
Yeah.
where someone passes and like we're like, oh shit, like if it could happen to him, it can happen to me.
Yeah.
And for me, that was Johnny. Like I don't know if on a conscious level I was thinking this, but I think on a subconscious level I was like, well, like we're just built different. Like this doesn't happen to us. Like all my close friends and close family was alive, and I'm like, we're the generation that's just we're gonna be fine. We've been through it
Yeah.
all already.
Yeah.
And then, he dies suddenly, abruptly, just a cut to the story. And I'm like, damn, like the end of this is death and it is unexpected. And
Mhm.
it's not always going to be the happy end. It's
Yeah.
not always going to be an end that even makes sense or
Mhm.
that has some kind of poetic justice to it or like anything. Sometimes it's just
Yeah.
cut
Mhm.
and over, fade to black. And
Yeah.
so for me, that was then like a pretty dark depression followed that to
Oh.
the point where like I was spiraling out of control.
Mhm.
And it felt like I was watching a car crash from like outside of the car
Oh.
while being at the wheel at the same time.
Yeah.
And like I'm driving the car into the wall
Right.
while being like outside on the sidewalk and being like, that's going to run into the wall. That's probably a bad idea. Sucks for him.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, I shifted from that like third person objective viewpoint to then being like at the wheel and being like, I'm driving this car against the wall,
Yeah.
and this is not going to end well. And
Right.
so then, like, I had to change a lot of things, and I had to work on things, and I had to face a lot of things, and that's really like what my story for the past over half a year has been about,
Yeah.
is really just like working on that shit and looking at like those things honestly. And it's not easy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I'm doing now where like the same reasons, like the things that I have to face now were the reasons why I wanted to run away before.
Oh.
And so it's like it's a shift of like, okay, I'm gonna face these things and be accountable and gonna try and clear like the wreckage of my past instead of running away from them, putting my head in the sand like an ostrich and
Yeah.
just pretending like they're gonna go away if
Mhm.
enough time passes, you
Yeah.
know? And so
Yeah.
like I woke up in a landfill surrounded by like the junk and the shit and the garbage of my life decisions that I'd
Oh.
made. And I'm
Yeah.
looking around and I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And like I was working a job at the time and my cousin dies. The funeral happens. I take 4 days off from the job, which was the minimum amount of time that I could make it happen to go to California, go to the funeral, come back to Germany.
Yeah.
I land in Germany. I turn my phone on. I have 7 missed calls from my boss.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I call him and I'm like, hey, what's up? I just landed in Germany. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, we need to talk tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, so when should I be at work? And he's like, no, don't worry about that. We'll talk tomorrow. And I get my backpack and I leave the airplane and I go in Germany. We have these like smoker lounges inside the airport. So I go there, I light up a cigarette, and I'm like, I'm about to get fired.
Yeah.
And so I call him back and I'm like, hey, am I getting fired? And he's like, yeah, I wanted to tell you this tomorrow, you know? And so, like, I came back from the funeral, landed, and got fired basically in the airplane
Holy
and in the
moly.
airport. And so then, like, all that, like, depression hits, all those things happen. There were some bright spots too. I helped out a friend with his paintball festival that he was putting on. We had a great event. It was really amazing. Uh, long hours of working. I mean, like, I was not sleeping at all there.
Yeah.
And when I was just like basically sleeping in my car because the place that we had to sleep was this like warehouse that was kind of gross. And I slept there the first night and I was like, you know what? My car sounds a lot more attractive than this
Yeah.
place with
Uh-huh.
like a bunch of bugs crawling around. So like I'll rather sleep here. But the paintball festival was a huge help. It was a huge distraction and it was a huge bright spot. But then
Okay.
like I came back to an empty apartment and I just sat in the misery. And like at the end of that, there was this weird moment where like I was collecting unemployment. My unemployment was about to expire, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, I need a job. And I literally like I prayed on it. You know, I don't know you don't want to talk about religion on this podcast, and
I don't mind you talking about it.
yeah, so I I prayed to God. I was like, God, I need a job, and I had a job like the next day lined up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it helped me like it was what I needed at the time. It
Yeah.
helped me make certain changes in my life. It helped give me purpose, but it also wasn't completely the right fit.
Yeah.
And I was pretty burnt out after like 4 months of working that job just because a lot of like things that were going on there.
Yeah.
I signed an NDA, so I can't really talk about it too much, but it was, I mean, we're talking about like 18-hour days at a time.
Yeah. Wow.
Not every day, but there was at the very end, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And so that's how I ended up in the body shop, and
Yeah.
it's been a whole different experience. But
Good. Hopefully good.
yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Hey, so
I kind of learn things from each place that I go to that help me on in life. And
yeah.
there's this weird theme of like anything I've tried to avoid in life, I end up doing in some kind of professional capacity.
Yeah.
Fiber optics was a bit of an outlier, but like I hated doing laundry. I worked at a laundromat. I hated cooking. I
Um,
worked as a cook. I
yeah.
hated like working on cars and stuff like that and like doing stuff on my car. Now I work on cars. Like
Yeah.
anything that I tried to neglect or avoid, I end up doing in some kind of professional capacity
Yeah.
where it's like, man, if you don't want to do something, you better do it because you're otherwise gonna have to do it for a living and it's gonna suck. Like,
Yeah. Hey, so quick question. So one of the people that has been influential in my life in the past has been Jordan Peterson.
mm,
And one of the things that he talks about is face your dragons before they get too big. And so, for example, if let's say you have an argument with one of your friends, or something happens with one of your friends, and you don't like it, but they're doing it to you, let's say, and you just don't talk about it, and then it happens again, and then you set the precedent that basically it's okay that your friend does this even though you don't like it, and at some point you blow up, right? And
yeah,
it's one of those things where if you would have addressed it in that first conversation, it would have been a lot better to face. But because that
yeah,
dragon got bigger and bigger and bigger, it made it a lot more unbearable every single time it happened. So my question to you is someone that's fighting a giant dragon, and it sounds like you had a giant dragon there were maybe a couple giant dragons that you were fighting with your analogy of waking up in the middle of a junkyard. What advice would you give someone that's facing a dragon of their own, or a couple dragons, big dragons like that?
that's a really interesting question. You know, the thing that it instantly made me think of was my like second real relationship. Um, the way that that spiraled out of control was there was like lines in the sand that I drew
Yeah.
essentially where I'm like, I don't want these things to happen.
Yeah.
She would cross it, and then I would be like, all right, well, it's fine. I love you. We'll figure it out.
Oh,
And like you're kind of saying, like you determine the rules of engagement through your actions, not your words. And it's
yeah.
very easy to devolve into a bit of a doormat.
Yeah.
And that, because you're showing them basically like, well, you can get away with it. Like, it's still okay. And even if they don't want to, they do tend to lose respect for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my dragons were maybe of a bit of a different nature, but I think like the thing is standing up for yourself. And I had this moment, and this might be a little too crass for this podcast, but there was a moment on the train here in Germany when I was younger where someone threatened me with a knife.
Mm.
And they ended up putting the knife away, and I kind of beat the crap out of them.
Mm.
But the reason why I engaged into combat in that situation was I'd been bullied for a long time in my life,
Yeah.
and I'd let people walk over me.
Yeah.
And there was this voice in my head that was like, if you don't stand up for yourself right now, you never will.
Oh.
And like I do a lot of martial arts, and my
Yeah.
body moved before my mind could even pick up on it,
Yeah.
right? And then like I'm like the next moment that my mind catches up to my body, I'd already punched this guy like 4 or 5 times in the face and
Yeah.
crossed the distance between us in this like train aisle
Yeah.
essentially. And the next thought that came in my mind was like, this person has a knife. If
Uh,
you don't knock them out, like they're gonna stab you.
yeah.
And so this whole fight like started devolving and going crazy in this train. And like I didn't ride the trains in Germany here, the S-Bahn as they're called. I didn't ride them for years. For
Oh.
years after that. Like I was terrified that this guy would find me and just keep driving that train back and forth until he crossed my path, you
Yeah.
know. And there was a lot of situations that led up to that too, like kind of like you're explaining. um, that dragon kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There was more and more situations where then like it was like, no, this ends here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to devolve to that point, right? I think you're gonna have to stand up for yourself at some point in life,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be in a dramatic way. I
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend that either.
Right.
And like, it's okay for you to exist, and it's okay for you to set boundaries,
Yeah.
you know. And if people don't accept those boundaries, it's okay to cut those people out of your life too, you
Yeah.
know. And that's not always easy, and there's other things that might entail with that, if it's like family members or if it's a partner. You know,
Right.
toxic relationships are a real thing, codependency is a real thing.
Yeah.
um the main thing is though, you're gonna have to do it sooner or later. Otherwise, it is gonna kill you inside. And you're gonna
Yeah.
start feeling really, really small. And you're gonna
Yep.
feel smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it feels like you're suffocating in your own body.
Right.
And when things like these show up, like if you can do it in a calm manner
Yeah.
and just vocalize what you're going through,
Yeah.
oftentimes, you know, people will be unaware. I had a friend, or I mean, I still have this friend in California, but they would do something that really bothered me. And one day I yelled at them and was just like, I hate when you do this. And they're like, why? What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, it, the way you're speaking to me is like you're talking down to me. It's really
Yeah.
belittling. It's
Yeah.
like the tone, the everything. And they were like kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, like I didn't realize that I was doing that, and that's the way that it made you feel,
Right.
you know. And this is the thing too, you know, like it's not always a dramatic knife situation, life or death. It's not always, you know, these things. Oftentimes people don't have malicious intent behind it, you know. I think especially between guys, you know, I can only speak about the male experience as I am one, right? But as guys, you know, like we put on like this tough air, and we like kind of shit house, make fun of each other in ways of like it's like jousting or like
Yeah.
fencing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it can really suck, and it can really hurt your emotions and feelings, and you can feel really belittled by that. Sometimes you can feel really upset by things that are said,
Yeah.
and the other person is just like, oh, we're just fencing, you know, but
Mhm.
really you don't have a blade up. You're not trying to fence. You're trying to have a conversation with someone, and they're just cutting into you because they just keep fencing at you, and
Yeah.
they think that you guys are having fun, and they're
Right.
like, why are they so sensitive? You
Right.
know, it's like, well, because I'm not trying to fence with you. I'm trying to connect with you on a real level.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, like, communicating these things with people is extremely important, and setting boundaries for yourself, and not like it's so important that if you set a boundary, don't let other people cross those boundaries, because you lose rapport with yourself.
Yeah. So
And
true.
then like it's even like things like when you set a goal to do something, and I realize this right now, what I'm going through is like I want to do like at least a small workout every day. And when I don't work out every day, first of all, then I'm like, oh, I fall more into that lazy trend. But I also fall out of rapport with myself because I made a
Yeah.
commitment to myself about something, and
Right.
I'm not upholding that. And
Yeah.
so your inner subconsciousness is like, okay, well, this person is unreliable. So I'm
Yep.
just not even going to listen to the things that they're like suggesting. And
Ah,
so
so
there
true.
starts to become a disconnect between your consciousness and your subconsciousness. They just like fall apart from each other. And then you keep
Mhm.
telling yourself, well, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to do these things. Your subconscious is like, nah, you're not going to do it anyways. I'm not going to commit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And what I found is the more you prove to yourself that you can do them, the easier it becomes to do them in the long run.
Yeah.
And then you can
Um,
start to challenge yourself
David
to do harder and
Goggins.
harder things. And
Yeah. David Goggins is someone to really look into. Is he, I mean, we've talked about him before, but like his book
yeah,
"Can't Hurt Me" is really fascinating, and it really he goes to extremes, which
yeah, he
you
does.
know I don't think everyone has to do, but it is
Yeah,
like a muscle that is trained, and it's something that like the more things you do that are uncomfortable, the more that muscle like is grows and is
mhm,
stressed, and like actually like the more you cultivate that side of yourself.
yeah,
But the thing is, like they do this example with the ice bath, right?
mm,
Like as long as it's uncomfortable to get into the ice bath, that part of you, that willpower part of you, and I think it literally is the part of the brain that is responsible for willpower, grows. But
mm,
as soon as the ice bath becomes comfortable, getting into it will no longer help you grow. And so you
uh,
have to do things that you don't want to do continuously.
yeah, yeah, right,
And it's like that's that contrary action, you
yeah,
know? It's like
yep,
you don't want to do it. So why would you do it? Like you
yeah,
obviously don't want to do it, but you have to do the things you don't want to do. And Mike Tyson said this amazing line which gets me every time. He's like, "Do the things you hate, but do it like you love them."
yeah. I love that, huh? Yeah, and you know that that statement in some ways rings a little hollow. Like I get the sentiment. Don't get me wrong, but like how do you how do you train your mind or convince your mind that what you hate is something that you love? You know?
So, I mean, I do it at work, and like I'm not perfect with this. You know, I'm obviously a human, very flawed human that's here. So take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Um, you know, for me, it's like I can go to work and I can do the things and I can just suffer through them, right? And just be like, oh, I hate this shit. It sucks. I'm just doing this again. I'm doing that again. This is all the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But if you try to like find enjoyment of it, and it all like oftentimes for me at least, it comes down to gratitude,
Yeah.
right? Like if I can shift my perspective to be like, I have a job, I'm learning
Yes.
something, I'm
Mhm.
doing something new,
Yep.
or I'm doing something that I already know how to do. I'm grateful
Yep.
that I do that, and I go into that framework of gratitude, then like I can learn to love something even if I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And when it's working out, like it's tough
Yeah.
putting my body through hell. It sucks. I
Yeah.
feel exhausted. Maybe I'm tired. I don't
Right.
want to get up in the morning. But you kind of suffer through it with a smile and are like, oh, I get to wake up this morning. My
True.
body is healthy enough that I can put myself through this.
Hmm.
I actually get to train today.
Yeah.
Like and that's like that's the difference
Yeah.
of like the
Changing your perspective.
perspective.
Ugh,
Yeah,
that was
it's
funny.
like,
We said
like
perspective at the same time.
yeah, because it's like, oh, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Right? Or like being in the camp of like, oh, this is happening to me. Like this could only happen to me. Only I could go through this. Like
Yeah.
like instead of the woe is me kind of mentality, I'm feeling like a victim that you
Yeah.
have to go through it all. Go through it like a champion and
Yeah.
being like, this is another one of the struggles that I get to overcome.
Mm, I love that.
And this is just
Another.
going to add more layers to the story. It's that whole
Yeah.
Joe Rogan quote of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And if like you didn't have conflict, if you didn't have struggles, if you didn't have things to overcome, the movie would be fucking boring. You wouldn't want to
Yeah.
watch that movie.
Right. Right. Be the hero in your own movie. Another one. Alex Hormozy says. Um, Whenever he's doing something hard, he thinks this will be the story that I'll one day tell, and I love
Yeah,
that.
exactly. That's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
Is because like if you watched a movie and nothing happened
Mhm.
the entire movie. Maybe there was some funny dialogue, but there was no conflict, there was no ups, there was no downs. It was just a flat movie for an hour and a half, 2 hours about a guy that just lived and went to work and went to bed. You'd be like,
I'm gonna hate
that was a
on.
shit movie. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get a lot of hate. But I mean, people did like Napoleon Dynamite, so I don't know.
there was some, and it's been a long, long time since I watched it, but there was still some ups and downs in there.
There
There
were,
was like the conflict of like romance and
but it
like,
was so
you know what I
bad.
mean?
I hated it. It was so boring. It felt like watching paint dry for me. But anyway,
Yeah, but there's still like even in that movie, I do remember there at least being like the conflict of like romance,
yeah,
right?
there
And
was. You're
that's
right.
like still a conflict
Yeah,
of like wanting to get the girl.
yeah,
And if
you're
we're
right.
talking about a movie where not even that happens, where nothing eventful at work ever happens, where nothing like, that's kind of like where we're going at with this is essentially like you kind of need conflict for growth.
Yeah,
And this is like also tied back to like potential and talent, right?
yeah,
Like if you don't get challenged enough when you have potential and you're not dedicated enough, you eventually cap out your growth.
yeah,
Like even if your ceiling is limitless, you're just going to teeter out somewhere near the bottom.
yeah,
And like I love playing Football Manager, right? And Football Manager is first of all a really great game, but like the thing that I want to talk about here is there's like this thing about potential in the game, right? So there's current ability, which I think the max potential is like 200 or 196, right? So
yeah.
there's current ability and there's potential ability.
Mhm.
But then there's like all these different stats that you have in the game. And like one of them is like determination.
Mm,
And like there's like all these like different like mental stats.
Mm.
And you could have someone with the absolute max level potential ability, but if they don't have the right mentality and the work ethic, they will almost always teeter out. If they're like mentality unambitious,
Yeah.
and they're like they lack determination, they lack leadership, they
Yeah.
lack like decision making, like all those things. They're just like always going to stay very close to their current ability, even
Yeah.
if they could have been the best in the world. And
Yeah.
if you have someone who's a little bit like less max potential, but
Mhm.
they have that like hard worker mentality and they have that like determination and like high leadership, like they very often will hit their max ability.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I don't have much to say. I agree. I love that. That's I love listening to the words of wisdom that you have to share. That it's very very informative. So okay. So so you said through your life, and I actually really like this, that ChatGPT gave me. You said over the years, different things have kept you rolling forward. And so, what's one belief you've changed your mind on in the past few years?
It's a really good question.
Mhm.
I think like fundamentally, I almost had to change most, if not like every belief that I had.
Ooh,
I think, man, I'm really like trying to like think back, like I think like one of the core things is that like I thought that I'd only be worth something if I achieved something. And this also
ooh,
ties into my hatred towards potential,
uh,
right? And when I see like really talented kids, I oftentimes want to be like, hey, if you do nothing at all, you're still worth everything.
yeah,
And like you're perfect if you just sit at home on the couch. Like you're still perfect and you're still deserving of love and you're still absolutely all right. Because for me, I felt like I didn't achieve enough, and I had a very large obsession with the 27 Club.
yeah. I don't know what
And
that is.
it's like James Dean, Amy Winehouse, all these like famous people that died at 27.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so this was right around the time when we started talking on Discord. Like I was actually contemplating suicide, you
Whoa.
know? And like I was like, man, like I just want to be in the 27 club. Problem with that is if you don't achieve anything noteworthy and then die at 27, you're just some forcocta dude who died at 27.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not part of the club, you know what I mean? Like you got to actually
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like if I die now, I didn't do enough to be part of the 27 club.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So like I have to keep on living and I have
Yeah.
to keep rolling forward because like I have to do something and I
Right.
have to write this book or I have to bring out an album or I have to get like a job, I have to make money, I have to find a girl, I have to do something that proves my worth and value on this earth.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really believe that that's true anymore.
Hmm.
I don't think that your value is and worth is tied to any degree to achievement. I'd rather be a kind and creative person that's remembered for being those characteristics. That like people were like, he was always there when I needed someone to talk to.
Yeah.
When I wanted to do or achieve something, he
Yeah.
believed in me and tried to help me to the best of his ability to achieve those dreams, even if it was just encouragement. Um, Something that like along the lines of like when we first started talking, I had a huge problem with listening. I
Mm,
want to also now more be a person that can hold the space to listen to someone if they have a problem.
yeah.
Because at that time, I still thought that, like, if someone came to you with a problem, they were looking for an answer to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, just holding the space for someone to be able to express themselves is all you need to do.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, what I do now is if someone asks, comes to me with something, I'm like, all right, hey, do you want my opinion? Do you want my advice or do you want my support?
Yeah. I love that. Opinion, advice, support. That's yeah, that's great. I do want to push back on one thing. Um, Potential when you said, "Hey, I want to look at that kid and say, hey, you're enough to that kid." And say, "Hey, you can do anything. Like you're enough if you just sit on the couch and don't do anything." Um, and the thing that I want to push back on is one thing that you're talking about is achievements and doing things in life like Amy Winehouse or whatever else, like becoming a huge singer and then dying at 27, right? But then
Yeah.
in the other vein, what I heard you say is being there for somebody and being a good listener and stuff like that. And my my pushback to you is someone that's sitting on the couch doing nothing, probably presumably isn't doing those other things that you value more now. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no, and I agree that that wasn't the best way of putting it. I think what I was trying to say with that is essentially that if you do nothing at all, you're still of value and you're
Yes.
still worth
You're still a
something.
valuable human being. Yes, I would agree
And
with
if
that.
you want to do something, do it because you love it, not because you want something out of it. Like if you set goals and if you're like, hey, I want to be an Olympic gymnast,
Yeah.
or an Olympic athlete of any kind,
Right.
and you want to do it because you love it, that's absolutely fine. But even if you don't achieve that, that doesn't mean that you're worth less,
True. True.
or if you set out to be a famous musician because you love making music and
Yeah.
you don't achieve that, that doesn't mean you're worth less.
Yeah.
It's like if you do something, do it because you love it and you want to do it and pursue it to the best of your ability. But if you don't reach your goal, that doesn't mean you're worthless.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. 100%.
And that's really all I was trying to say with that is because I don't think anyone ever really told me that.
Yeah.
They always just told me of all the things I can achieve, all the things that I can do. And
Yeah.
when I didn't do anything like that, I thought I was a failure.
Yeah. Right.
And, maybe to some degree I was,
Yeah.
but I was dealing with other internal struggles that were inhibiting me from ever really pushing through those things. There was a lot of mental shit and a lot of emotional shit that I had to really work through to become a person that, like, today I can look in the mirror and I don't want to jump out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm certainly glad you're here. Just an
Me too.
FYI.
Me too, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here too.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Man, that was some deep stuff. That was good. Thank you for sharing that. So that was what's one belief you've changed your mind on in the past few years? Um,
That was what
that
the question was?
that was what
I
the
forgot
question
all
was.
about it.
Yeah. We went down a path there. That was great. Um, yeah, I think for me, the belief is that I've changed my mind on is my my thoughts have more power than I think. And when I say something, even if it doesn't impact anybody else other than me, um, I, it's we talked about this earlier. You lose credibility every time you don't with yourself.
Hmm.
You lose credibility every
Yeah.
time you don't follow through with that commitment, and that is that is disastrous for your mental health. And for my mental health.
Yeah. And little cliff note here for anyone who wants to dive deeper into that specific topic. NLP is a subject that people might want to become familiar
Oh,
with, neuro linguistic programming.
yes.
Um, the idea that your thoughts have a direct influence on your brain, and that like the relationship between your body and your thought and the internal and external mind frames and frameworks, and we'd have to do a whole different podcast
Dude,
just
I'm in.
about that topic, but it
Rob,
goes very deep into rapport with
yeah,
yourself. And
yeah,
there's also interesting techniques and stuff with how you can social engineer people, and it's a
yeah,
fascinating subject.
yeah. Rob is really interested in that, so it might be fun to do like a three person podcast with you, Rob, and in myself.
Yeah.
Once you come to Cincinnati, of course. Um, but yeah, and
Yeah.
we can all chill out in the studio and talk NLP, because I that's something that I've barely looked into. I'd love to look into it
You
more.
do a lot of things innately. I mean, I have
Yeah.
here, right here, I got a big ol' tome of stuff about NLP
Oh,
right
snap.
here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is a lot of stuff.
Okay.
You know,
Let's do this.
another day.
Give me your favorite one.
Um, Favorite one?
Yeah.
Okay. Say a sentence.
Um, MX is the coolest man alive. Alex is the coolest man alive. I don't know.
The coolest man alive?
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yep. Oh, okay. So the NLP is you repeat back what the person says.
Just one of the techniques. It's called mirroring.
Yes.
And you can literally guide a whole conversation. There's little bridge things you can do in there too. But all you do is just repeat the last part of a sentence to someone
Yeah.
and then leave a pause. And people feel forced or like compelled to just explain themselves.
Yeah.
And then literally, oftentimes at the end of it, they'll be like, oh my God, he's such a good listener. I had such a
Right.
great conversation. And
Yep.
all you're doing is just parroting back to them. You're
Yeah.
just like, someone talks about something. It's hard to do when you force it in a conversation like this.
Yeah.
But definitely something to try out at a bar or something like that. If you're
Yeah.
talking to
Definitely something to
someone.
try out at a bar for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the really cool things, I heard a hostage. I think it was a hostage negotiator that was
Yeah. He's a
eh,
great masterclass
saying
on
to do
this.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know who that
dude,
is?
great. I forget what his name is, but
Me too.
I watched his masterclass on it.
Oh,
Great masterclass on mirroring.
uh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so let's skip down. I want to ask about disability in perspective. Um, how has your understanding of disability changed from knowing me, if at all? Doesn't have to.
I'd say pretty profoundly, honestly. Mainly like, first of all, your sense of humor about it.
Yeah,
That was something that like opened my eyes. I mean, like, so my uncle is in a wheelchair, and um, has written a bunch of textbooks on biomechanics and has like a bunch of the patents for like wheelchair designs. We've talked about this a few times. Um, so like I always knew
he's
that
an
people.
amputee, right?
No, no, he has something with his spine.
Okay,
I don't know exactly what it is, but he was in an accident and then ended
got
up in
it.
a wheelchair.
Paraplegic.
Advocated for like the space in airplanes to be wider
Yeah,
for wheelchair access. Big advocate on wheelchair access in general. Has worked with a couple presidents. So I always knew that like people with disabilities could be very capable.
yeah,
Um, he also puts on the like veteran wheelchair games.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know if you heard about that.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, really like amazing guy, but your sense of humor and like when we did the podcast, like I asked you if there's one thing you change about yourself,
Oh
and I
yeah.
don't even remember what you said, but it shocked me that it wasn't your
Disability.
like disability.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm fine with that. It's become like part of my identity, and like
Yeah.
the way that you like take that challenge head on
Hmm.
in daily life and you don't let it limit you in any way, shape, or form is pretty inspiring. And then just like again, like the humor and levity with that your username is Wheels.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
find that funny every time. Like it's the
Yeah.
joke that just keeps on giving.
Keeps on rolling.
It keeps on rolling. You know, the fact
Yeah.
that like in the Discord we had like the secret channel with the like up the stairs that you couldn't
Stairs.
access. Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
They created a Discord that was only accessible via stairs or something like that, and
yeah.
they blocked me from it. I wasn't an admin at the time. It was funny because I then became admin of the Discord and I had access to it later, and there was like basically no chatter on it. It was just to troll
No,
me a
it's
little
just,
bit. The other
yeah,
thing,
and a few wheelchair jokes and
yeah,
memes. There's I don't know who it was, but there's you guys kept sending that meme of someone like throwing the wheelchair like off something. I
yeah,
remember like
it was like going off of a cliff and the wheelchair
was
just
it off the
yeah,
cliff? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But there was so when I was in Smash Bros, we were I was running a top 10 guild with Dizzy Ryan, who whatever we want to call him, but and
Two step.
we yeah. we we loved I mean the wheelchair jokes were so prevalent that and I don't know who started it. I don't think it was me. But somebody changed their profile to a superhero in a wheelchair. So like someone put Cyclops and it was basically Cyclops with just a cane, a walking cane. And then like
You guys all had those
we
pictures, right?
all had it, yeah, and I had the Hulk in the wheelchair, and that's actually what inspired my rolling forward logo is a superhero in a wheelchair. It's just there's so much irony with being a superhero in a wheelchair. Professor X is the only one that is a superhero in a wheelchair, and he uses his mind for everything. So like Superman in a wheelchair is just like I don't know. It's just funny. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that I want to get into every single podcast is because this is kind of like a self discovery of mine. It's a perception that I've had in my head for I don't know how long that I have felt the urge or the need really to get rid of this is I have always perceived there to be an elephant in the room when it comes to my wheelchair and my disability with everybody that I've met, with everybody that I come in contact with. And that stems from interviews, that stems from just meeting people out in public, whatever else. And so I have worked really hard to get that elephant out of the room. And one of the ways that I get the elephant out of the room very fast and get somebody very comfortable with me being in a wheelchair is through humor
Yeah.
and all that. So it's really easy to just make a self-deprecating joke about me being in a wheelchair or something like that, and people are like, I get it, that's funny, and then it gets them a little bit more at ease. So my question to you,
That
go
makes a
ahead,
lot of
actually.
sense to me.
Yeah, okay.
I think that elephant in the room is very real, because if you like it or not, disabilities kind of confront you with your own mortality
Mm,
to a
okay.
degree.
Interesting.
And like, as someone who is generally healthy, you see someone and then you instantly think of like, oh shit, like what if that happened to me?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this
Yeah.
is just my perception of things, but like I think that like that can be a very uncomfortable thought for people.
Yeah. You're right. You know that
And
that's an interesting take. Keep going. Keep going.
I was just going to say, we take things for granted very easily. We get
Mm.
very accustomed to things. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, shit, electricity. If it
Mm.
went out for like a week,
You'd be dead.
the next time it came on, you'd be like, oh wow, like the lights are back on. I can charge my
Yeah.
phone. I can play computer. I can watch TV. A
Right.
month later, you would think of it not at all. You'd just be
Yeah.
like, you'd just be using it again.
Yeah.
Having a toilet, if your toilet broke for a week, you'd be, like you'd suffer quite tremendously because every time you have to go to the bathroom, you'd be like, crap, where am I going to
Yeah.
go now? I'm going to go to the
Crap.
supermarket to go to the bathroom there. Um, it
Yeah.
comes back, and then like a month or two later, you're taking a shit like nothing ever happened,
Right.
and so it's very easy to get accustomed to things
Yeah.
over time. And it's hard to have that gratitude and see the magic in the mundane.
Mhm.
And when it comes to the body too, like for me, I just went through like last week I had this horrible pain in my shoulder. Like it
Mhm.
was like a pinched nerve and it was
Yeah.
horrible. There's a funny side of it too because I like prayed to God. I was like, God, like please relieve the pain in my shoulder. And then
Yeah.
my shoulder stopped hurting and it moved to
Oh,
my
wow.
biceps.
Oh no.
And I just was like, this is not what I meant. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't mean this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
like relieve the pain from me, not like move it in my body.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but like before that, I was, not working out as much. I was taking things for granted, was
Yeah.
being a bit lazy. And then like after that, I was just like so grateful. I was in a really great mood. I was like, oh my God, like I'm so grateful for my health and that I can even move
Yeah.
around and go to work. And
You
then a
forget
week
about it.
later, I'm at work and I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I'm at work again and this
Yeah.
sucks and da, da, da.
Yeah.
And like it's so easy. And for me, I think there is a bit of an elephant in the room to a degree when you don't know someone, because you also don't know what the parameters are, what the context
Right.
is of that situation. Is this
Right.
someone that's like for you in your case, just as an example, right? Is this someone that's always in a wheelchair? Did they just have an accident? Is it something tragic? Is
Yeah.
it like something chronic? You don't know like how are they taking it? Should I
Yep.
even say something about it? Or are
Right.
they going to be like offended about it and then
Right.
feel bad? I don't want to make anyone feel bad.
Right.
And so like there's like all these kind of things that maybe are going on more in the subconscious than in like the
Yeah.
conscious mind, but the conscious mind is then just like this like um kind of walking on eggshells through the conversation, and you
Yeah.
making a joke about it is like, oh, okay, I don't need a trip, it's fine, they're doing
Right.
fine with it. And
Right.
then your humor allows me to ask you questions about your experience so that I can learn more about that in
Yeah.
general and just expand my knowledge of the human condition.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's so true. It's interesting because I've asked disabled people about this, and some of them have said there's not an elephant in the room, or they don't feel it. And one person was like, "Yeah, there might be, but I don't care." um,
That's the
uh,
right attitude.
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting just the different perspectives that I've gotten from it. And one thing I will say is discussions I've had in the past on the podcast is when an able-bodied person sees somebody that's disabled, they think all disabled people who are in wheelchairs are the same, or they act like that at least. And the example that I bring up to that is the open door, the opening doors policy or whatever else. Like it's one thing like if you're going through the door in front of me to just hold it open because that's like common courtesy, right? But it's
Yeah.
another thing to be like 30 yards away from me and see me going towards the door and be like, hey, I got it. I got it. Wait, hold on, and just make a huge scene of it, right? Like, which that's
Yeah.
happened to me before, right? Or I've opened doors for people and then people have refused to go into the door. Um, like they refuse. They want me to go in first. They want to hold it for me and all that. So it's yeah, it is interesting because I think one, the elephant in the room, but then two, I've brought up the open door policy or the open door, I don't know, theory, whatever we want to
The
call it.
open door fallacy.
The open door fallacy. I brought that up so many times because that's really how you know when someone is like comfortable with somebody in a wheelchair or not. And for me, that's a really subtle way to kind of open someone's eyes up to disability a little bit more and make them think, because it's not every day that a guy in a wheelchair deliberately opens the door for you and like lets you and wants you to go through the door. It creates a very uncomfortable thought. It just a lot of times it creates a very uncomfortable situation. um like I've had people like, I'm holding the door, and they'll just like reach over my head and grab the door and like basically give me their armpit, and they're like, "No, no, you go." And then they want me to like duck under their arm or whatever. And then probably another really awkward one is I'm holding the door, and they'll go in front of me and stand on like with their back against the door and want me to go through. And what they don't realize is the door's not that big, and so with their feet there, like, I'm gonna run over their feet if they go through that door,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, there's various things like that's like, it's so hard to know how to react to somebody who's in a wheelchair because, one, I think there's a little bit of a stigma of like, "Oh, I can't act the wrong way because I'm gonna get embarrassed or something else," right? And then there's also the I'm going to treat everybody in a wheelchair the same because I don't know, as you kind of alluded to, like where are they at in their
Yeah.
disability? Was it tragic? Are they okay talking about it? All these other things that are going through someone's mind. And so,
I
one of
think
go ahead.
from what you said, you brought up a really interesting point, though. It's almost like you're like they might think something like you're worse off or like you need it more. Like if you're
Yeah,
ever in like a shitty situation and want a cigarette, and then
yeah,
like a homeless person is like, "Hey, I got a cigarette." You know, some people might be like, "Oh, well, he's homeless. I don't know where those cigarettes have been." Or the
right,
other thing is like, "Oh, you need that cigarette more." And this
right,
is like kind of like a weird example, but you know, a lot of that feels like fragile ego, white
yeah,
knighting, and
yeah,
almost like, "Oh, well, like, you know, like I can walk through any door easily.
yeah,
You need the help to walk through the door."
mhm,
And that's like something that like I think a lot of people that don't have any experience or friends or
mhm,
family in these kind of situations, they don't know how independent people with a disability can be.
right,
And you've been a living example for that in my life
mhm,
that I don't know if I would have known, like even with my uncle in my experiences always has his wife around helping him through different situations.
yeah,
You know, but you live alone
yeah,
and you go to work, you do things, you make it happen, you figure it out. Um, so that's something that like I don't know if I would have been aware of it actually being as possible
yeah.
without you as an example.
Mhm. So then there's kind of a catch 22 with the opening doors, right? It's like that person's being nice, right? They're looking out for me and someone that might be in need, right? And the catch 22 is they're also potentially perceiving this person that they're opening the door for as less than. And that could be potentially problematic, right? And so I'm not suggesting people shouldn't open doors for other people or um open doors for somebody in a wheelchair who might need it. Like, let's be good people. But at the same time, like let's not blow it out of proportion and make it weird, like that
Yeah.
person from 30 yards away that was yelling, I got the door for you, I got the door. And it's like I thank you, but and in those situations I always try to like run up ahead of the person or like get to the door first and be like, no, I got you.
Run up
uh
ahead.
yeah, 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 run up ahead. Yeah, wheel very fast. No. But yeah, so that it's just an interesting kind of like a catch-22 is like I've had people go through a door and they haven't opened the door for me. So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's easy for the mind to wander into, well, that person's an asshole because they don't want to
Yeah.
open the door for a guy in a wheelchair. Like, how heartless can they be, right? Like stuff like that. But like
Yeah, yeah.
so part of what I'm trying to do in this podcast is piece that together, and
Yeah.
and get people more just get that conversation out there of like more comfortable. Like you can choose to think that person's an asshole. And it's kind of like that woe is me kind of conversation that we were having earlier. Like you
Yep.
can choose that guy's an asshole, or you can choose to think, wow, this is a good Samaritan. This is a person that's trying that is given the cards that they're dealt in front of them. They're trying to make the best out of it. And that's
Yeah.
a good person, right?
So I kind of have one thing to say and one question to ask about that.
Sure.
I guess like the thing that I'd say about that is opening doors for other humans has become exponentially more complex over the past like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like I open doors for women and men
Yes.
in general.
Right.
Just like I feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If I walk out of a door and there's three people coming my way,
Yeah.
if there are three guys, three girls, two guys, one girl, whatever, I'm gonna hold that door open and be like,
Yes.
here, come on in.
Mhm.
There's women that will stop and be like, and my experience has mainly been women be like, I don't need you to hold the door open for me. And I'm
Oh,
like,
interesting.
I was just being nice. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care if you're a woman or a guy. The
Yeah.
other side of that is sometimes you become a doorstop.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I've held the door open and I've stood there for like 8 minutes because like
There's
people
just
walked
the
in
odd
the one
phone
way,
people.
people walk out, people walk in and out, and they're just like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess this is my job now. Like, I guess I just live here. Like,
Yeah.
I really didn't plan on being here so long."
Yeah. Okay, so
And the question that I have is, how much do you think those kind of reactions have actually less to do with you and more with how those people either want to be perceived by people around the situation
yeah,
or feel like they will be perceived by people around the situation, like external observation to
dude,
that situation going on.
that was just brought up to my attention. So I was out with a group with my housemate. It was his birthday, and there were people that were in town that I hadn't met yet. Or no, that I hadn't been around much. And we went to a restaurant, and I was in like towards the front, and like we were going towards the door, and the one of the guys ran up ahead, and he ran around me this way, and the door was this way, and I sped up and kind of like stiff armed him and didn't let him open the door, and I opened the door. And one of his comments was, man, okay, but everyone around me is gonna think I'm an asshole. And that was one of the first times that I've internalized that, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's interesting." It's not just me or somebody else in a wheelchair that might think that person's an asshole. It could be everybody else that's watching that interaction
yeah.
happen,
Like,
and it's
look
like,
at that dick.
"Oh,
He doesn't even hold
yeah,
the door open for him.
right, yeah," and I
How
never.
inconsiderate, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And so I've never thought of that, and you're right. So am I being a dick by holding the door open for other people?
I
instead of
mean,
just letting myself go through the door.
to thine own self be true, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, right. But I enjoy those situations just because it like sometimes I really enjoy awkward situations, and that's just
You
an awkward
do.
yeah, and that's just an awkward situation that I'm just like, okay, what's gonna happen this time?
Hey,
And I've
every
gotten
day is a new
some
adventure.
yeah, and I've gotten some really weird ones with that. Now, here's what I tell you. So, someone did ask me, not on the podcast, but someone did ask me, well, okay, but you hold the door open for women, and um, although again, there's that there's two thoughts that you can have. You can think this person's doing a good deed, or you can think this person's being misogynistic and whatever else. And um,
I
like
never understood that one.
yeah,
Like,
it is. It's kind of silly, and so the parallel though
it's
that
just
I want
being
to draw,
courteous, you know?
it is, and so that's kind of the parallel that I want to draw is opening the door for a woman isn't nobody that opened the door or opens a door for a woman or anybody able-bodied, let's say, is thinking, oh, that person's less than, they can't do this, so let me help them out, right? When you hold the door open for a woman, it's almost like rolling out a red carpet and saying, I got you, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that level of you want to take care of that person as much as possible, and again, rolling out that red carpet and letting
I
them
mean,
walk
I
on.
see it more as like just basic human decency. You
Oh,
know, if I'm
you
not in a rush and I have to get somewhere immediately, like I'm going through there, I'm just holding the door open. It's same that like if someone sneezes and I have a tissue, I'm gonna give them a fucking tissue.
I
You
agree,
know, it's
but there's a level of like, let's say you take a girl on a date and maybe you're more old fashioned, and there's guys
yeah,
that open the door open for the girl on the date, open their car for the date, push their chair in,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff that I'm talking
But
about
that's
is
more
more like
in
that
like
red carpet.
courtship.
It
Yeah,
well,
that's more that's like aimed specifically at that person that I mean, I think there's a different vibe between in a date setting and like that kind of thing with like courtship and in a general generic public setting where
yeah,
it's going on, because there it's like literally for me, if I'm walking out of a place and I hold the door open, it's like when someone sneezes and I say God bless you.
yeah, sure, yeah, you're right to an extent. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some guys that not even on a date would maybe go out of their way to open the door for a woman more so than a man. Um,
Yeah, I mean, chivalry is considered dead for a lot of reasons, and
yes.
it's because a lot of guys get yelled at for doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's why I almost always feel more comfortable holding a door open for men.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, when I hold the door open for men, women have less of a problem. But there's been like, like situations where there's like two doors
Mm,
that are like, it's like two door gates kind of thing that
yeah.
open like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I'll hold the door open and there'll be a group of like, let's say three women.
Yeah.
Two of them will go through the open door and one will purposely break off from them and go through the closed door to
Yeah.
prove some kind of point to me or herself or
Yeah.
other people watching. And I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you got to live your life. If that's what makes you feel good and helps you fall asleep at the end of the day, good for you. If
Yeah.
you want to yell at me for holding a door open, I'm at this point in my life, I'm just gonna smile and I'll be like, I hope you have a nice day.
Yeah. 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 That's so true.
Which
Um,
probably like get mad at that too, and be like, how dare you wish me? But
yeah.
it's not everyone that's like that. And if you do something, do it because you believe it's the right thing to do, not because you
Yes.
expect some kind of outcome. And that's like the main thing. As soon as you
Yeah.
expect any kind of outcome, reality has a way of fucking with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
And
that.
not everyone's an asshole, you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be outliers in every single culture, in every single country, in every single gender or non-gender, non-binary. That's a whole nother topic. I don't want to offend anyone by that. But in
Sure.
any kind of group, culture, religion, anything, there's going to be outliers
Yeah.
on the extreme good and extreme bad of things. and there's
Yep.
going to be always people that take things personal. They're living their own like personal movie,
Yeah.
and we always play different parts, and some you're the hero, some you're the villain, some you're a background character, just
Yep.
an extra.
Yeah. I like it. Okay, so we're at the 2 hour mark. You
I'm feeling the caffeine that I drank, honestly.
are you
Let's just keep it rolling.
you
It's
want to keep
already
going?
4:26. Yeah,
Like
yeah, this ain't a good spot to end.
4:26 where you are? Wow, it's only 10:30 p.m. where I am. Okay. Um okay, well
I'm just
I always like to
throwing
get
a big
into
nuke on my sleeping pattern.
I
Let's get
know.
this.
Let's go. No, but I so yeah, thank you for having that disability conversation. It's one thing that
Of
I
course.
don't think is um really broached much in any capacity, and it's something that I'm realizing even as a disabled person, I have my own perceptions that I've not realized that maybe I've assumed that other people and other able-bodied people have or other disabled people have. So it's interesting. So
One
um
of the less risque subjects we've talked about, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah, but it's still very thought provoking, and you did bring up some original points that other people haven't. So um I'm curious. I'm curious what the reaction is going to be. What did you just dust off?
No, I just
um.
tapped my shoulder.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm actually curious. Because I'm trying to put it in shorts. As well. Like I'm trying to put in like the rolling forward thing, the question, and then
Hmm.
some of the disability conversation. Trying to put those into shorts. And so I'm curious, like what the feedback is going to be on it. So I don't know. We'll see. Did I? Yeah, I told you that. Never mind. Okay.
Probably going to be 30% of people that love it, 30% of people that hate it, and 30% of people that just don't
Don't
care.
care. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think I'm just trying to hit a different perspective for people, and I hope that it'll go. I hope it'll get popular amongst at least a small group of people.
Well, I think it's also just something you're trying to bring attention to, right? And this
Mm,
is the same with like when we talked earlier
yeah,
about starting a Discord for streamers that are new and up and coming, you
yeah,
know, be the change you want to see in the world.
yeah,
Don't wait for that change to happen.
right.
It's like there's that stupid saying at the airport, like if you see something, say something. No, I
Mm,
think more like if you see something, do something, right? And
yes,
it's also like in the context of like living with like roommates and stuff like that, there's always going to be these like type of roommates that are like, "Oh, there's a plate on the counter. You should wash that."
yeah,
And then there's the other type of roommate that's like sees a plate on the counter, takes it, washes it off, puts it in the dishwasher.
yeah,
And that whole thing is just an example. There's more context. If the person's just always putting the plate on the counter, that needs to be a different kind of discussion.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
more about like, if you see something, do something about it. Why not? It almost takes the same amount of effort to talk about it and complain about something as it
yeah,
does to actually do something about it. And I think our generation kind of isn't as action focused on things. And
yeah.
it's the one thing that I actually like about like the younger generation. They have a bit more of like the action thing. There's a bunch of young people that just like they just start like online businesses, they just like do things, and that is to a degree admirable. There's other things that I don't like so much about the younger folks, and I'm feeling like an old guy saying this,
Sure.
but they do take more action than our generation. Our
Yeah,
generation is it's kind of passive. And
yeah,
when you look also at the things like there are protests and things like that, but like my parents' generation, gas price would go up by 5 cents and they would go on strike and not even go to the gas station.
yeah,
And we're so like battered inconvenience that
Mm,
like in comfort that we don't even really want to oppose things. We'll complain about it
mm,
and won't really do anything tangible against it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to go back. You said somebody pulled a knife at you on the train, and then you beat them up.
Yeah.
Um, you sounded like because of what you were going through, you kind of had to prove yourself. Um, what would you do differently today if that same situation happened?
That's an interesting question because so the whole thing was at the time I was pretty high,
Mm,
smoked a lot of weed.
mm-hmm.
Sitting in a train station in a bad neighborhood at midnight, waiting for the last train to come. And I could hear like two or three people talking about robbing someone. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
somebody's going to have a bad day. Like, that sucks. And I used to do this thing where I had headphones in, but I wouldn't have anything playing in the headphones, right?
oh,
And so I'd just be listening, but I'd be pretending like I wasn't paying attention,
yeah,
just kind of incognito. And I remember like being like, oh, that sucks for someone. Good thing the next train is mine and I'm going to be out of here. And
right.
then this guy sits down next to me and he tries to spark up a conversation. And he's trying to like ask me about like he's asking about like drugs and like where I got them, like do I
Mm,
have any on me? He's like really like fishing, you know. And the train comes, I get on the train and he gets on with me. And at the time I had my longboard with me
yeah,
and there's tons of debates about if I should have used the longboard or not, but like I do think that legally wise it's classified as like assault with a deadly weapon.
yeah,
And functioning wise, I've never been in a fight with a longboard. I have no
yeah,
idea how I would wield it, use it, pivot with it. No clue. Never used it before. And I've used my body in a lot of fights. So like that just felt more comfortable.
right.
This guy, we're standing essentially like this in the train aisle. Like there's like seats here to the left and right, and there's these like two like dividers, and there's doors then like on this side essentially two sets of doors,
Yeah.
one on each side, and we're in that like in this like rectangle essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my back up against the one divider because I didn't want anyone to be behind me, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
felt more safe there. I have my longboard here on the side, and he's standing across the other one, and he's like talking and talking and talking, and eventually he has
Still
this
to
like
you.
fucking hey, he's talking to me. He's
Yeah.
trying, still fishing for things, right? And I'm like pushing it away and pushing away from the conversation. He has this fanny pack and he zips it up open and he pulls out this like Bowie knife that was like this fucking long
Whoa.
and it's like huge and I see my life flash before my eyes and I'm like I don't know how to deal with this like hand to
Yeah.
hand combat sure whatever I might get my ass beat but like I felt more comfortable with that the knife comes out and I'm like I don't know what to do
Yeah.
I have no clue what to do and I'm racing through like situations. I'm like, okay, maybe when I get off the train, I can then like dip out. Maybe I can use the longboard as like a shield. Maybe like, you know, like, and I'm seeing situations of being like in a back alley getting stabbed and taking my fucking $20 out of my pocket,
Can I
you know?
ask you real quick what you said he was talking to other people and so I that made me think that his buddies were maybe with him at least
Yeah.
outside of the train. Do you know if they were in the train as well?
I don't know. There's like, it's been over 10 years since the
Yeah,
situation.
sure.
So it's been quite some time. I've thought about it a lot. I even went to therapy about it.
Mm.
Based on what I heard from the conversation, it very much seemed like some kind of initiation as
Mm.
they mentioned things like just show the knife, you know, and like what do I do? And then and like there was some kind of conversation. They seemed I glanced over my shoulder to look at it. It seemed like two older guys, and this guy that was on the train with me was younger. He was more like
Okay.
my age.
Yeah.
Um, as we progress in the story later on, there's going to be a moment where like literally I was like holding him in the doorway,
Yeah.
and he kept like looking off to the left, like looking for someone.
Yeah.
So I assumed they were also on the train.
Okay.
What basically happens is he sees the fear in my eyes when he
Yeah.
pulls out the knife and then puts the knife back into the fanny pack
Oh.
and zips it up. And at that moment, I just jumped. My body moved before I heard that voice telling me, like, if you
Yeah.
don't stand up for yourself now, you never will.
Right.
And my body moved before my mind did.
Do
And the
you
next thing I
remember
know,
real quick, I'm sorry, but do you remember if he threatened you with the knife or was he just
oh, yeah.
showing it? Okay. So
Oh,
did he
yeah. He
say,
was
"Hey,
like flashing it.
give me your money," or was he
No, he
trying to
was
rob
getting me to
you?
try to go with him somewhere.
Oh,
He wanted me
whoa.
to go with him somewhere and
Whoa.
was like alluding to like basically like leave the train with him and God
Oh.
knows what would have happened.
So the
And
threat was still there even when he put the knife back in his fanny pocket. He was just like, "Hey, I have a
well, by
knife.
the time
If
he
you don't
zipped
come
up
with
his
me."
fanny packet, he looks down, he looks back up. I dropped the longboard. He
Yeah.
looks off to the side to the longboard. He looks back up. He's already taken a couple fists to the face.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
start punching him. And then
Right.
literally I'd already like punched like multiple times. And then
Yeah.
at that point, like my mind, like I said before, like clicks and I'm like, oh, like if I don't like knock him out, like he's gonna
Right.
use the knife on me.
Right.
Right. So this fight, like and I've often thought about this. I really would like to see the camera footage from the train, which was like they
Yeah.
have like cameras up on top of this
Yeah.
whole fight like escalating. Dude, I
Yeah.
tried every single move I've ever learned in martial arts. Like I was first of all in a street fight, never try to knee someone like
Right.
because he was like bent over and I tried to like knee him in the face, but he was just like blocking. It was super ineffective. I was using
Oh,
like the Shaolin like dragon fist, which is like over the top of the head, like hitting
yeah.
him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I was trying all kinds of stuff. Kicks didn't work so well. Punches worked very very well.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually, then like the way that in Germany the trains work is they have like a button and when you press the button, the doors open. So we get to the next stop, and at that point, like I had one hand on the fanny pack and like one on his collar, and I just kept banging him like, up against the door, like over and over and over again until the
Whoa.
doors open. And so
Yeah.
the door opens, and I'm literally standing with him in the doorway, holding him by the collar and having one hand over the fanny pack so he can't grab the knife. And
Yeah.
then like anytime he tries to grab for anything or move, I just punch him in the face again.
Right.
And we start having this like conversation where he's like, "You don't know what you're doing, you don't know who you mess with," and I just like in rage, I was just like, "No, like you don't know who you mess with. You
Right.
picked the wrong fucking person, man."
Right.
And
Yeah.
so like eventually the doors start closing. I push him back and I'm standing there because I feel like I'm like, this isn't over yet, right? And
Yeah.
so he like turns around, walks off, and like the whole time while we were standing in the doorway, he's like looking off to the left, looking off to the left, looking off to the left, and I'm like, who is he looking for?
Oh.
The doors close, he like walks off to the left and he turns around and like walks back to the door and I just give him that like pop forward and then
Yeah.
he just goes like never mind and like at this point like he already had like a bloody nose and like a black eye and stuff like that and it's the
Yeah.
only time I've really ever like fought someone to this capacity
Right.
and it was that like adrenaline level and that like life or death like situation and most of my friends, they didn't believe that any of this happened
Right.
until even months later, I would refuse to go on a train. And they're like,
Oh.
why? Why do you refuse to go on a train? I'm like, dude, I told you, I almost got robbed on a train. I got in a fight with someone. I don't know if he's looking for me. They're
Right.
like, I thought you were exaggerating. I thought you were
Right.
just telling stories. And I was like, no,
Right.
no, this shit
Right.
fucking happened. And it was horrible
Yeah.
and like oh I thought you were just bragging about it and like no like I don't like fighting with people. I don't like beating the shit out of people.
Yeah.
It didn't feel good. It felt scary and dangerous and
Yep.
like I was genuinely afraid. I practiced for years after that in martial arts defending against knives. All of
Yeah.
that also doesn't really help. It just made me feel more like okay, at least I have some idea of what I'm going to do, but like a
Right.
blade is a gun is bad, right? Like, but
Uh-huh.
a gun is quick, and there's not
Yeah.
much you can do about a gun either. But a blade, like, even if you try to defend against it,
You're
Like
probably gonna
you're
get cut.
getting slashed and cut, like getting stabbed, burns like hell. Like
Yeah.
it's not a fun experience, you know,
Right.
like it really, really isn't. And yeah, I just remember getting off of that train and there was a couple there like, what happened? I explained it to them a little bit and they're like, good for you that you managed to like get him off the train. Because they just
Right.
saw me just like jump a guy basically. And
Right.
then I got off the train, I like jumped on my board and I just rushed to a friend's house that lived kind of near there.
Yeah.
And he just thought I was coming by to like get some like drugs or something. You know, he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is just like an elaborate story for me to like give him a bit of drugs because he's probably out of some." And then
Right.
when he offered me like he's like, "Hey, you want some?" And I was like, "No. I don't want
Yeah.
anything, man. I just want to chill here for a minute until I feel safe to go home because I don't want them to know where I live." And then he was
Hmm.
like, "Dude, are you telling the truth about all this?" And I'm like,
Right.
"Yes."
Wow.
And most people didn't believe it for like the
Wow.
longest time because also I'm not someone who goes out and gets into fights on a regular basis.
Right.
When someone picks a fight with me, I never really was one to back down, especially after that.
Right.
And like oftentimes I'd like kind of stand my ground,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't go out of my way to initiate a combat situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when combat happened, I'm relatively quick and I'm
Yeah.
rather small.
Yeah.
So my go-to thing would just be to get behind someone and just kind of get them in a rear naked
Took
choke
them
and then
out.
drop to the ground and
Yeah.
just be like, stop.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
hold them there, be like behind them, and then just be
Right.
like wailing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
just like a spider monkey like crawl behind him.
Yeah.
And that was always pretty damn effective.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit less dangerous too, because like when you punch someone in the face, like you can also cause like concussion. If you punch someone and
Yeah.
knock them out, like that can cause damage. If they fall bad, that can
Yeah.
also lead to some really dangerous situations. Like if someone falls bad and hits their head on
Right.
like a bench or on a curb or something, like
Right.
they could potentially die.
You could also
And
break your
like
own hand. I mean, like,
yeah, I
uh,
mean, when you fight long enough, you do also through like martial arts and stuff, you do kind of like gain some like cartilage, I guess
some,
you could say.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is a potential though, it is a risk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's more risks doing, let's say, combat rather than getting behind them, manipulating their body and just holding
Yeah.
them there, or just putting
I
them to
mean,
sleep at that point.
yeah, and you had the guy from jiu-jitsu on here. Like there's a reason why jiu-jitsu is one of the most dominant martial arts
Yeah.
is like if you can get someone in some kind of hold.
Yep.
And I watched the short before this, you know, where he talks about like the puzzle, which
Yeah.
if you guys haven't seen that, definitely check out that podcast. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Episode
Um,
one. It's on Wheels 3.14 Rolling Forward podcast. Go ahead, keep going.
yeah, I was just gonna say like it being a puzzle is a good analogy, you know, but it is like combat is chess
Yeah.
to a large degree.
Yeah.
And in that sense, like punches and kicks are
Pawns.
you could almost say, no, I wouldn't quite put them as pawns, you know, but I'd more put it in the category of like a rook or a bishop.
Okay.
But like, for me, like, although I'm not great with ground game by any means, but it is more of like a queen. It can move in like any direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it's very interesting, like how deep that goes. Like Joe Rogan and Guy Ritchie have a really great podcast, and I didn't know that Guy Ritchie is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I
Mm.
just knew he made amazing movies. Um, they talk about how it's like a language,
Yeah.
and it's like literally learning a language,
Yeah.
and you learn like almost like different like sentences, right? Like, and you learn like a move, and what is the counter to that move, and what is the counter to that counter,
Yeah.
and that also that's why the analogy of like a puzzle was good, but it's more fluid than a puzzle. It's
Yeah.
like a puzzle that's moving and changing as you do it.
It's a 3D puzzle.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is in constant movement,
Yeah.
where like someone else is removing puzzle pieces as you're
Yeah.
placing them.
Oh
Like
yeah, that's so good. Yeah. Someone's removing puzzle pieces as you're placing them. Huh. Yeah, that's so true.
that's why
Interesting.
chess is a good analogy too, because there's two people moving the pieces,
Yeah.
right? And it is that like chess game of like, okay, I move my pawn here, and then they move their bishop there, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
Did I tell you I got on the ground? Did some ground game. They taught me
I
how to
think you
shrimp.
mentioned it.
They taught me how to shrimp.
Nice.
And I don't have good butt muscles, and so shrimping's pretty hard for me. I know that's like a basic thing for ground games. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
I never like getting on the ground, especially in a street fight. You never know
yeah,
what's on the ground. There could be glass bottle pieces. There could be like
that's
fucking
true.
needles and
Yeah,
be like curbs and anything. Like
true.
it's not the best,
Yeah,
if you're in like a bar situation where, someone's getting rowdy, people might have dropped a bottle,
yeah,
you're on the street. It's not fun. I'd rather
yeah,
stand on my feet,
yeah.
low
Interesting.
kicks to the knee, low kicks to the
Yeah,
kneecap.
yeah. Um. So thank you for elaborating on that. I'm glad I asked because initially my perception was you the guy de-escalated by putting his knife back in his pouch, and there was no like after you explaining
That would
that
have been
it
nice.
was not a de-escalation in the slightest, and you had to act in the way you did. So I mean, back to my original question, it sounds like you took the appropriate steps to defend yourself as much as possible. Is there anything that you would have done differently now that you're thinking
Don't be
about
in
it?
a bad part of town at midnight.
Yeah, that's fair. I
I
like it.
mean, anything that you could change about that situation would have been before that situation happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Or, I mean, what do I do? Do I just like run down the aisle and he happens to have then his two homies there and now it's a 3-on-1 situation?
Right.
Do I, like get on the train and then get off the train and then get back on the train and try and
Right.
play like hopscotch with him to try and like, shake him off?
Yeah.
Do I hop on the longboard, and just start riding off into the distance to an area of town that I don't know well that could potentially just have worse in store?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's plenty of situations like this in my youth too. Like, there's so many um, situations that I put myself in needlessly for like shit reasons,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it often comes down to just, not really thinking about the situation, not really thinking about where I am, not really thinking about my surroundings.
Mm.
And the only thing that I've really learned from that and that I apply on a daily basis is I don't put myself in those situations anymore.
Yeah.
I don't go to the bad parts of town at midnight unless I absolutely have to. And that's if someone calls me to get them out of the bad part of town.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Interesting. Um, okay, so one thing, and maybe you can help me with this. Um, one thing that I want to do is create a community of support, right? And so a question that I haven't been asking, but I'd like to. I just haven't developed it enough, and we can brainstorm on the podcast if you have any thoughts or suggestions. But one of the question is something like, "What's one question you wish people asked you?" No, 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 not that one. What can I or this podcast do to support your journey, or even someone listening? And you don't have to necessarily ask that. If you have a better question to rephrase that, feel free,
yeah,
or you
you
can
asked me
answer that
this
one.
last time. I think like the answer to that question is a bit self-evident, right? Like your podcast is providing a platform for people to talk about their thing,
Yeah,
and so it already answers itself,
Yeah.
and the listener is already doing one of the two important things that they can do, that's listen to the podcast,
Yeah.
and the other thing is then just engage with whatever that is. Let's say it's like, in my case, maybe I'm making an album, and you're like, what can you do? Well, like, me having the chance to talk about my album here, maybe if I do come with like that kind of thing, maybe we listen to the songs, talk about like some of the segments, talk about like lyrics or like
Yeah.
decisions, and then the user listening to the podcast and then engaging with the product, buying the album, sharing it. I mean, that's all that question really kind of leads to.
Yeah.
And those things in my mind are a bit self-evident. Um, I think like the thing that you're doing is like you want to do something about support,
Yeah.
right? Like supporting is
Essentially
important.
like if someone's thinking like, oh man, I want to support that dude. Um, how what can someone do to support you? Like obviously the easy answer is like, give me money. Here's my Venmo or whatever else, right? But like another way could be to follow you on your music platform, or another way could be I don't know, the sky's the limit, and I think one of the reasons why I haven't asked that question is because it's such a weird question that people just don't get asked, that they probably don't even think about what the answer should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like there is a lot of that. There's like the school of thought too that you could create a place for like the people that are on your podcast to go, be it like a website, a Discord server,
Yeah.
be it like a Patreon type of deal. A
Yeah.
lot of the support either comes through like engagement or monetary.
Yeah.
The only third part of that is like, to use the example of an album, right? If there's then someone listening that's like, oh, I want to support this person with knowledge or skills that I have,
Yeah.
right? So like maybe I'm a producer or I'm an
Right.
engineer that's good in mixing and mastering, or I'm
Right.
an artist, or I'm like a label or like, publisher, anything like that. Um, so there's really only like three things, right? So it's like either engagement, monetary, or skills.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe you could break down the question to something like that, where you're like, if someone were to support you with either engagement, monetary, or skills, what is the most important thing that you need right now
I
in
like that.
achieving what you're setting out to do?
Yeah.
I'm purposely keeping it vague because I don't know exactly the parameters of the person you're asking the question to. But
Sure.
then they can be like, oh, like I just need more eyeballs on this. Like the more engagement with this project, the better. Or
Yeah.
like really we're lacking like funding right now. I don't have enough money to go into the studio and record a song. So
Right.
like monetarily, if you can, here's my cash app. If you can send me a couple
Right.
bucks, that'd be great. Or if
Right.
it's like I really need someone to master these songs, like, or I need a guitar player for this song I'm working on. If you have
Yeah.
the skills and you want to work and you live in this area or even want to
Hit me
ship
up.
it online, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So, as far as I can see, there's not many other ways that people can support with
Right.
either like with their contribution. It's really just the engagement, the monetary, or the skills.
Yeah, and I wonder if like, hey, I'm interested in learning more about this. Like, send me, or like put YouTube videos that pertain to this that are your favorite in the comments, or a book in the comment, or whatever else. So, and that's a skills base that someone doesn't necessarily have to do, train you on that specific skill, or provide that specific skill to you, that you can go out and learn it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I
I don't know.
think the other thing is to having some kind of hub for the community that you create. This is why a
Yeah,
lot of creators have a Discord server too,
I have a
is
Discord server.
so then people can gather there and you could create like sub channels for the different people that you have on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, and you could, hey, if you want to, oh yeah, like hey, if you want to reach out to Alex, you can join his channel, his portion of the Discord on here, or anybody that has maybe even that theme of what you and I talked about, they can join the Alex section of that Discord, and
Yeah, because individual channels on Discord allow you to create threads.
yeah,
And then so you could have a channel branch out into individual sub conversations through threads.
yeah.
Or you could create a category for each person with multiple channels.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that that is. I love that idea. If I had like 1 million followers and like let's say 20,000 jumped on my Discord, but if I had one person for each episode, one person from each episode join the Discord who watched it, that would almost that wouldn't go very far, right? So it'd almost have to be like one Discord with maybe different topics, and so people can talk in different topics or something like that. I don't know, but I love that Discord idea.
Yeah, the Discord is one place. I mean, the main thing is just having a hub for your community to interact with the content in a different way than just leaving comments on a YouTube video, right?
Yeah,
There's only so much that people can do, but I mean, like already engagement with the channel, like the like, comment, share, subscribe,
yeah,
whatever the fuck the saying is. There's a reason why everyone says that is because that's what helps a channel grow. That's
yes,
what helps give people attention with things. If you are a channel with 1 million followers, then everyone that's on there will instantly have a pretty large audience that comes into contact with whatever they're working on,
yeah.
which is oftentimes the hardest thing. Like as someone who made a bunch of music that's never been listened to by anyone, really,
I
it's
listen to it.
because
I'm
I never
somebody.
promoted. Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you're one of my friends that I sent it to. But
Yeah,
like, I mean, like strangers that
yeah,
no, like real strangers really listen to. And of
yeah.
course, some of my friends showed it to other people and stuff like that. But I hated promoting my music because I never was really satisfied with it.
Mm,
And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna make something better. I'm just gonna make something better. I
yeah,
never wanted to really put my name behind it and share it and be like, hey, here, I made this album, check it out, blah, blah, blah. And then do that same post like 100,000 times in a year just
yeah,
to get eyeballs on it. And I
yeah,
mean, look at even like famous artists like will promote the same project for like months just to get people's attention because we live in an ocean of content
yeah,
where every second new content is being put out,
yeah,
and there already is an ocean of content,
yeah,
right? That's what is like so hard about this. I feel like you are distinctive in the landscape of podcasters because you hit like a specific niche
uh-huh.
also with your disability
Yep,
and with the fact that you're talking to like everyday people.
yeah,
And so it's like an everyday person kind of podcast. It's not really about the fame. It also like I can imagine it spreading through the disabled community
yeah,
more like rapidly, I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
because there is that one of us bias.
yeah,
What I mean, where people are like, "Oh, like this guy's doing it too," like this guy's just like me, and like then that
mm,
spreads onwards, and people share it. And yeah, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense right now. I'm starting to lose a little bit of lucidity.
No, no, it's okay. We can end soon too. We're wrapping up, but one of the things that I really want to get out of this podcast is in addition to education for able-bodied people, disabled people, anybody in that's maybe going into the field with whatever else. I also like I like once my parents come down from Columbus, I'm gonna have a podcast with them, and it's gonna be called "Your Child Has a Disability. Now What?" And I think there's so many people, family members, parents that that thrive, that crave that, and right now, wheelchair sports really gives that to parents, right? But what if there's not wheelchair sports where you are? You can do
Mm,
able-bodied sports, right? But you don't have another parent that has been through the ringer with that disabled kid that can say, "Oh, this is what you should do. This is how you should handle that." Or like
yeah,
me as a coach that's going to hold that kid accountable. And when maybe their parents don't think that they're capable of doing what I know that they're capable of doing, right? So it's those kinds
like
of
that.
things that. What's that?
Yeah, that wonderful example you have in your short, and you mentioned it when I interviewed you as well, of the
Yeah,
kid saying, "I did something today that I didn't know I could do."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's those kinds of things that I want to build in the community. Like I want a parent, and it doesn't even have to be me, but I want a parent to like jump on the Discord and just be like, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? And then it's a flood of different people that are willing to help that person out and give that person guidance. And yes, that's on the internet now, but it's I don't know.
So you're talking a bit more like a forum kind of idea.
Yeah, and I think a Discord forum would be fine.
Yeah, you can do Discord. The thing also is what you could do once you've hit a certain level of critical mass. You could also do Zoom Q&A seminars
Yes, I would love that. That'd be awesome too.
where you
Or
have
yeah.
maybe like different types of people with different types of disabilities that are, athletes or, just generally like working.
Mhm.
And you could do a format that's used in a lot of different things, where you have someone speak about their like experience, and
Mhm.
then parents can ask questions.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I think a lot of the cool thing about where I'm at in the disabled community is what are you smiling about?
If you know, you know.
Okay, I don't know. I'll have to watch this back and see it. But dang it, I must have made a wheelchair joke on accident.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, I mean, a question to answer. And the other cool thing is like, I know so many people in the disabled community, the disabled sports community, that would, I think would jump at the potential for this conversation and to help out in the conversation. So it's still happening. Is there something in my nose? What are you smiling
No,
about?
no. Right now I'm smiling because I looked out the window and I saw the sun coming up.
Oh yeah, I can see the window. It's no longer dark.
Yeah.
It's 11
Yeah.
p.m. here, so we
Five
can
o'clock
wrap
in the
up.
morning.
We're at two.
I mean, at this point, I'm awake. Let's run it.
There
12
you
hour
go.
podcast.
There you go. We're at two
I'll put you
hours
to work until it's light
40.
over there.
Yeah. Oh no. Are we gonna have like an 8 hour podcast?
We could do
Uh,
it. Wouldn't
what's
be the
that?
first 8 hour conversation.
Dude, it's 11. I don't know. Do
Oh,
you
are
want
you
to hear?
getting tired, Wheels?
Yeah, I'm getting tired. It's not. It's what 5 a.m. there? You say
5:06.
5:06. Yeah, yeah. I could not. I could not do that. Dude, I appreciate the heck out of you coming on. And one of the cool things about our conversations is there's always something that I get out of it, and it's so awesome to for you to come on the show with your face, with your beautiful face.
Yeah, just for you, Wheels.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love our conversations, man. Always have.
yeah. They're awesome. I think we're good to cut it off. We can talk more if you want, but
I'm down to
let's
talk a little more.
let me go and do
We've
my
barely done
outro.
any questions, man.
What's that?
We barely did any of the questions. We did like
W-
3 questions.
We I know, but like we kept talking. Do you want to do another question?
Yeah, give me a good one.
Okay. Let's see. Um, there were other ones up here that I skipped through. Um, by the way, all these questions I just plugged into ChatGPT right before we got on the podcast, and I said, "Hey, I've got this buddy. This is how I know him. This is a few things about him, and prepare a podcast." And so it gives me like I've wanted it to give me the disability question, the elephant in the room, the open doors thing, and then like a couple other like really cool, just
What were
random
some of the
questions.
questions that I asked you last time?
Okay, let's
I don't even remember
let's get
those.
into those.
There were a couple good ones there.
There were. There were indeed. Well, do you want to do the new questions that you just went with, or
It's up to you,
okay,
man.
and maybe we can go like you and I can both answer these questions. So, like,
I'm down for that.
what's the best thing you've bought for under $100 this year?
Oh, I mean, it's been in the time span of like 12 months, but it's definitely the Olight Perun mini flashlight. It's just a great freaking flashlight.
I'm laughing because you sound so much like my dad. My dad loves flashlights, and the fact that you're like,
Dude, it's a
"Oh, this
great one.
flashlight's the best."
It's
Oh
great. It's
man,
like super small. It has like a magnet on the bottom that you can like when I'm working on like cars, I can just like click it onto like any piece of metal.
yeah.
And the battery lasts for like 10 days on full blast,
Uh,
72 hours on low. It's got
okay,
like
okay,
a built-in SOS like function where I could just flash like a red SOS light if I'm ever lost in
yeah,
the woods somewhere.
yeah,
Definitely a moment where I'm realizing that I'm growing older.
yeah. Huh? But yeah, I realized when I was growing older when I went into Lowe's one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this store. This store's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I feel like a kid in a candy store in a hardware store, and like owning a house and then having the studio. It's like, oh, I might be able to use that for my house here, and I might be able to use my this for my house there, or my
Yeah,
studio, or
man.
whatever else. So um
What
when
did you buy?
oh
What was yours?
what did I buy for under $100 this year? I was trying to think of something. So I'm not like a big things person. And so like I it doesn't really I don't really think along that level. What
Was it like your first month of like a gym membership? Does that count?
Um, I mean, no, I've been going to this gym for about a year.
Hmm.
Actually, almost 2 years. Um, under $100. there has to be something in the podcast studio that I bought for under $100. Um,
Couldn't have been that great if you can't remember it.
no, I mean, I was honestly thinking like I bought two trash cans, one for the studio and then one for the bathroom that's
We're
connected
getting
to
old. We're
it.
getting old.
Yeah, right.
Mine's a flashlight. Yours is a trash can.
Yeah, but everything in that studio is I've definitely paid a pretty penny for him. Oh, here's something. I bought this air filter that filters out like really like microscopic type things from the air, and that's helped out with my coughing and allergies a little bit. And
Nice.
you know, so my
Quality
house
of life.
has yeah, and my house has two washer dryers. One's in the lower level, and then one's actually right here. And it's this office is a bedroom, but we turned the closet put it into the washer dryer. We
Mm,
put the washer dryer in there, and when I'm working at work, I'm doing laundry and stuff like that, and it really affects my lungs. So I can I can run that while I have the washer dryer on, and it
yeah.
stops affecting my lungs. So there it is.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It was 99.99. So
So right under the 100.
yeah. Okay, so how about this? Dude, okay, so here's something that I learned. I'm gonna ask this question, but I want to elaborate on the question and maybe change it slightly. What was the happiest moment of your life? So a while back, I asked one of my coworkers, what was the best moment on your vacation, or what was your favorite? I just asked her like what was the top, and um she later told me like I don't know if I pried or something like that, but she basically later told me she didn't answer the question, by the way. And it
Mm,
seemed like a simple enough question, and she later told me that me asking her what the top of all these let's say it's a vacation, what's the best part of your vacation, and she's like, that put a lot of pressure on me to figure out what the actual best part out of all these really awesome moments. So one of the things that I figured out are what are some of the top, or what's one of the top, and that takes the pressure off of people um to not have to think of the best one. They can think of some random one, especially when this is like an impromptu conversation. It's like,
yeah.
if I give you a week, hey, I'm going to ask you this on the podcast in a week. Let me know your thoughts. If you don't have something, that's fine. Um, but I think I've changed those types of questions a little bit. I do like them, but the happiest moment of your life, that's so for me, that's a really hard one. So thoughts?
Yeah, because, like, man, the first thing that I thought of was that birthday where Ryan came out to camp in
Oh yeah,
California. But
yeah,
I was actually really sad about that because I was in a really toxic relationship
yeah,
and she didn't show up to that birthday party
yeah.
um, because of reasons.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, like the only concert I ever did, that was definitely like a happy moment.
You went to or you performed that?
Performed at,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a pretty happy moment. But I messed up one of the songs at one of the points. Nobody really noticed, but I did, you know. So like I'm thinking about that.
Mm,
Um, I really enjoyed working at that paintball festival.
mm,
Had a blast there. That was a pretty happy time, but it was right after like my cousin's death, like funeral, you know.
yeah,
It was like a week later. Like a lot of the happiest moments that I had were always like drenched in a bit of bittersweet.
yeah. Interesting.
I think when my friends came down for my birthday this recent time, and we just hung out together, ate tacos, had a good time. The first time I really did a D&D session with a group of friends.
Mm.
First time like I really smoked weed with my two cousins. But that was like me recovering from a broken arm. I'm allergic to pain medication.
Oh no.
So they were like, "Here, smoke this. It'll make it feel better." So like there's reasons why my arm was broken, which were
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah.
Um, and that night though was hilarious. Um, a bunch of different moments in soccer. Like the first game I ever played with my friends when we started our own team, and me and my two like really close friends that I started the team with, we
Mm.
like linked up play to score a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember if we won that match. I think in the end we might have tied or even lost. But
Mm.
my friend like got the ball like deep in our own half, dribbled up the side, lobbed it into like the center circle, and my other friend like jumped into the air and like headed it like
Yeah.
forward, and I had like a defender on my back like running behind me, and the
Uh-huh.
goalkeeper came rushing out of the goal, and like as the ball was like dropping over my shoulder, I just chipped it over the goalkeeper like into the back of the net.
Nice.
That was
Nice.
just like that was like like homies united, the power of
Yeah.
friendship kind of moment. It was really great.
Yeah.
um I mean, even though the relationship didn't end well, there were a lot of moments in my first relationship where I probably was at the happiest I ever been.
Mm.
Um, yeah. I think the first time where you really fall in love is just something that does stay with you,
Yeah, I agree.
you know? And we were young, dumb, and in love.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember time in Paris, moments in Ireland together, moments in Germany, moments
Mm-hmm.
in California. We traveled a lot, we did a lot. The time in Paris though was probably like one of the ones because we met in California. I went back to America. We ended up in a long. I went back to Germany. We ended up in a long distance relationship that was like for multiple months,
Mm.
and we like were kind of in a relationship, but also like she was just gonna come for the summer. She was gonna
Mm.
just come to Europe, and she was only gonna stay in Germany for a little bit. But then her friend, who she was gonna go to Europe with, canceled, and then it kind of turned into like, oh, she's just gonna hang out in Germany with
Mm.
me, and then it would be over, right?
Mm.
And there is part of me that's like, if that would have happened, we probably both would have been the happiest,
Mm.
like just, you know, leave while you're
Mhm.
on top, like,
Mhm.
but when we're at the casino, nobody leaves on a winning streak, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then we met in Paris, and like she told her like she was on like this cruise with her like family, and I think she even like lied to her family about like what was gonna happen in Paris, that she was meeting like a female friend because her
Mhm.
family's pretty strict. And so she met me in Paris, and I met her there, and we had like an Airbnb, and we didn't see much of Paris. I'll say that
Mm.
much. But it was a wonderful time,
For
especially
sure.
after like it built up for such a long time.
Yeah.
And then she went on the cruise, and then I got to see her again in Germany,
Mm.
and there it already started getting a little rocky at times. I think
Yeah.
that's also when we went to Ireland and stuff. Ireland was great. That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun moments, but man, yeah, you're right. Like the happiest is hard.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many different kinds of happiness, and a lot of the
Uh,
happiness that I've experienced has been bittersweet at times,
yeah.
either surrounding sad or tough moments or after tough moments. But that's like the contrast of life, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes in your darkest, some of my darkest moments have been the times, maybe not where I've liked them, but where you really see where your true friends are, or family members, or the people that just in general just care about you, um,
yeah,
or those
absolutely.
that don't. And it's like, whoa, it's cool. Um, so for me, this is kind of wild that this is one of my first thoughts. Um, I'm sure I've told you about this, but did I ever tell you about Tetelestai? It's a church play that
Vaguely
I was
remember
in.
this.
It was a church play that I was in. No, okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sure in our 6 years of conversation, or however long we've known each other, I'm sure it's come up, but I
I'm sure
don't
my
expect you
memory
to
would
know.
also be better at a different time of
Yeah.
the day.
Um.
But no, let me hear it. It's
So to
probably not
tell
been
it,
on a podcast yet, right?
yeah. So, oh no, it hasn't actually. So I was born and raised pretty. I was born and raised Christian. I grew up Christian my entire life. I was hardcore Christian in high school, and my brother, did my brother, at least my sister, um, who's 4 years older than me, went through this church play, and it really changed how she just loved it. And so it's a church play. Tetelestai means, it's, I think it's Hebrew for "it is finished." Somebody can correct me in the comments, but it's about the life and death of Jesus, essentially. And there's, I don't know, 40, 50 people that try out and get different roles in it, and it's a musical, and they sing. But it's one of these things that we train for, I don't know, 8 weeks, and then we go and do we do the plays themselves, and it's one of those things where, like, as we were working towards something, we built so many different bonds with each other, and it was incredible. The bonds that we build, and um, I don't know, it was one of my favorite experiences. At the very end, we go they had us do this hug line, and they just had us in like with stand in front of another cast member, and then they just went down the line and just let us go through and like hug every single one of them. And there's so many
Like
people.
a like circle kind of thing where it just like moved,
Yeah,
kind of like that.
it wasn't a circle. It was like a line of like people just facing each other, like a line of 20 and a line of 20, and then we just rotated, right? And like one of the lines rotated, one of the lines didn't, and then so everybody could hug
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was like, wait a minute, wouldn't there just be like people on each end that are just like standing in front of no one, just like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love
Um,
myself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Everybody was with somebody else. And the amount of bonds that were created was like, people were like so sad that it ended, because it was something that we just built so many good memories out of, and formed so many good relationships from. So that was just a time in my life that I was thinking about. What's funny is tennis growing up. I don't even think I want to say this on the podcast, but it's, I mean, there were good stories, and there's good moments, and there were good victories and wins and losses
Hmm.
and all that. But I don't know if there was a moment while I was playing per se that really that was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this moment. There was a moment in basketball that I remember that we were down by 1 point, and this was junior basketball, and I was quick. Um, we were down by 1 point, and I had the ball, and I was going for a layup, and it was me versus basically doing one on one with somebody else, and this guy was under the hoop, and I I managed to get the ball out, and he cut me off, and I fell out of my chair, or fit, like I'm strapped in, so I fell on the ground, and I turned around, I look up, and the ball's going in the basket, and everybody on the bench
Oh,
is
sick.
screaming that really loud, and I'm like, yeah, we did it. Oh, it, we heard a whistle, right? Like the
Yeah.
ref called a foul, and everybody was like, "Yeah, like I got the foul. I can shoot foul shots, and we can really make sure that." And the buzzer was basically at zero at that point. I
Yeah.
mean, the clock was there's no other clock at that point. I basically shot the buzzer shot, and I look up, and the ref called a charge, and he called
Oh.
a charge on me,
Yeah.
and everybody on the bench thought I want it for everybody, and I
Yeah.
got up, I got up on my on my wheels again, and the refs. By the time I got up, the refs were gone in their own locker room because it was such a controversial point that everybody was heated, and the refs just
Yeah.
wanted to leave. So I do remember that one. It's interesting. The moments that have been my favorite in my life have been people oriented and not really
Yeah.
where I am per se. Um, like there's been great trips that I've been on, great things that I've seen, but like my happiest moments are with the people that I really care about. So,
Yeah. That's why like the first one that came to mind was that like camping birthday
mm,
because it was just like, Dizzy came out from frickin' Vegas, drove all the
yeah,
way to like the mountains out in California,
hmm,
and a bunch of my friends from there, and we all just like camped, we grilled food, we sat around in a circle just telling stories, having fun, played
yeah,
some beer pong. I went on like a night hike with the other homie. When everybody passed out, him and I just like wandered through the mountains, and like he saw the Milky Way galaxy, like the whole like starry sky for the first time in his life because like California
yeah,
has terrible light pollution.
uh-huh,
And we were just like laying on the side of the mountain, just like looking up at the sky, looking up
oh,
at the stars, talking about the universe. Um, I remember he was scared. No, not that he was scared, but he was like worried that like someone would try to get us. So I took the this like giant axe that we had for like wood cutting, and I
yeah,
just was like walking through the like the like camps basically with like an axe over my shoulder, and I'm like, this is gonna look real weird for people that don't know why we have an axe with us. Like,
yeah.
and then he
Yeah,
was
that's
like
awesome.
dancing with like these like little like LED lights at
Uh-huh.
afterwards, and like everybody's asleep, and he's just vibing to the music and like loving the life and like these lights and like yeah, it was just like those parts of it were what
Yeah,
made that so special.
yeah,
Is that we were just like free, having fun,
yeah,
spending time together. And like I love the time when we were really like camping and having fun. We're playing soccer and going to the beach, and like there was less moments of that near the end of my time in California and more like bars and problems.
yeah, yeah. That's another interesting thing. There's a moment that I had with this girl on the beach on a beach. I don't know that I want to really get into that one, but that was
Yeah,
just
I dodged a couple of those types of moments because I
yeah,
thought about those too, and I was like,
not not
not YouTube appropriate.
this moment was PG, so I mean, you
Oh, hmm.
know. But anyway,
Mine were not.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate you dodging those. Um,
Yeah, it's like I don't think he's gonna want me to talk about this kind of stuff.
yes, I appreciate that. Um, all right, let's do one more. And I think if we do one more, you'll have the longest podcast that I've ever done thus far.
Oh, we're definitely doing it then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're at 309 right now, so I think we've passed it, but just to make sure that we've passed it, let's
let's
go and do
do
one
it.
more. Um, um, let's see if you knew the world. Uh, did you did you send me? That's June 28th. Oh, this is May 1st. Okay, so these are the other questions that you'd asked me.
Yeah,
Let's get into some of your new questions real quick. And if you have one that is your favorite, let me know.
I can't
Um,
look at it. I can't
oh,
leave this
that's right.
screen. I'm
Um,
trapped.
yeah, that's right. Um, I want to do kind of a more like either a fun one or a deep one. What's your favorite thing about? What's
See both.
love means?
Quick answers. Rapid
Well,
fire.
okay, we don't have to do. Oh, okay. Let's do this one. I think this one will be fun. What does and this could be another hour-long podcast, but we'll get into it. What does love mean to you? Should I ask another one?
Heartbreak.
Should we get into this one later?
Um, no, I mean, like, I think it's a really important question to ask in general.
Yeah.
So, I think when I was younger, love only existed in a romantic capacity, and it was a noun or a feeling,
Mhm.
right? So like I thought in my first relationship, I thought that like it was the feelings that I had towards this person,
Mhm.
which intersected a lot with like lust, desire, also like some envy and stuff like that in there too. And I thought like the intensity of the feelings was love.
Mhm.
As then things evolved, and after many conversations with some friends, and like one specific friend, I mentioned her earlier, I learned to understand that love is more of like an action verb. It's like a bit almost like a way of life.
Love.
And there is like, there are many different types of love too.
Yeah.
And I think inherently, for me at least, I always desired one specific type of love. And that made me like ignore the love I had and got like from my friends and my family. There's love slash passion also for like things that you enjoy,
Mhm.
love for like friends and people that you're close with, family. Those things are all important in like their own way.
Mhm.
I think having like the idea of love being like kind of like a way of life is also this like idea that I mean, man, like when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking like so much of it is paved by like media too. Like I read a lot of books especially when I was younger. And I've watched a lot of movies. I grew up on like Disney and stuff too. And
Hmm.
there's this like specific idea of like a romantic love and what that romantic love is supposed to look like,
Yep.
you know? And so, like, I think there is a long time where I chase that. Self love is also a really big thing,
Yeah.
you know, like self care, self respect, self love. That's a hard one that seems almost like I almost forgot about it now. You know, it seems like one that you just kind of pushed aside.
Hmm.
Um, and like I talk with a lot of people nowadays that also have that same problem where they're chasing love from, you know, the opposite sex or, you know, if you're of a different sexual persuasion, same sex or whatever, but like whatever your interest is in a long-term partner,
Hmm.
the love that that person will give to you. And it is like this thing of like, if you are looking for someone else to fill that void inside of you, there's going to be a huge disappointment when you realize that they can't.
Yeah.
Or there'll be a huge dependency on them when you realize they can.
Mm.
And then it's literally just like, if that then fades away, then people get like super depressed, they get suicidal, they go off the rockers, or you know, they start like cheating and stuff if they don't feel it. And so like only really when you love yourself can you really love anyone else, can share that. Same with like happiness. If you
Yeah.
depend on someone else for your happiness and you can't really like, it just doesn't work that way. Like when you have happiness within you, you can share it with someone else. But when you're trying to get someone else to make you happy, there's like so much, like such a performative side to that.
Yeah.
Just it ends up very toxic and codependent.
Yeah, that's so true. I just Googled different kinds of love, and I'm curious. So there's what are these? The common framework identifies 8 distinct kinds of love associated with
Wow.
ancient. It's associated with ancient Greek terms. Um, so there's a few that I've heard of, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but eros, eros, is the romantic love characterized by passion
Yeah,
and physical attraction.
that's
There's
where erotic comes from.
there's philia. Oh, yeah, that's fair. There's philia, philia. It's affectionate love, often associated with deep friendship or brotherly love. Um, Storage, okay. Familiar love, the natural affection found within families. Oh,
Yeah.
familiar, familiar love, but like, yeah, okay, you get that one.
Yeah.
Lud
The thing about the
Ludus,
Greeks though too with the philia, you know, their idea of brotherly love was a little bit
it was
different.
a it was a little
A
like a
little,
chicken kind of thing. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
They like to
Okay.
wrestle.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good PG way of saying that. Thank you. Uh then there's storage. No, I said storage. There's
Storage.
storage. Storge. Familiar love, the natural affection with found within families. Oh, I already said that, but it's storage, not storage. Um, Ludus, Ludus, playful love characterized by flirtation, games, and lightheartedness.
Is that like infatuation?
No, it's playful love, like flirtation, games, and lightheartedness. I I don't like
That's almost
that.
like promiscuity.
Oh, I heard characterized by flirtation, but like games and
I mean,
lightheartedness can also be like just
it seems
shooting
very much
the
like a crush, a little bit to me.
okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay. Uh Pragma, Pragma, Enduring love, a mature love built on commitment and dedication. Um, Enduring love, a mature love built on commitment and dedication. Okay.
It's like marriage, I guess.
Yeah. Or like
To
just
me, like the
sticking with
things
your
that are
friend through the
missing
thick and
though is
thin.
like where's like the love for your craft, love for your hobbies, like
Um,
things that make your soul come alive. Whereas like the love for self, you got to have
yeah.
one of those in the eight, right?
So we're at five. We've gone through five out of the eight. So the next one is self love. It's this is gonna be awful pronunciation, but Philatia. It's Philautia. So I don't know.
Hachu.
Self what?
I said hachu.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's you. It's self love encompassing both healthy self acceptance and unhealthy narcissism. Okay. Agape, I've heard of this one. Selfless love, a universal, unconditional love for all. Mania is obsessive love marked by possessiveness and dependency. That's it. You're right.
The
I don't.
agape one brings up a really good point though, is like if you love someone and they don't love you, but they find someone who they love, you should be happy for them,
Mm,
right? Like, is
yeah.
your love contingent and tied to them loving you?
Yeah.
If you really love them, like in a romantic way, right? Because like I love you like a brother. If you found a
Stop.
woman,
Yeah.
then I'd be happy for you,
Right.
right? I'd be excited, be like, hell yeah, man, you deserve it. I've been hoping that you find someone amazing,
Yeah.
right? But like my second large relationship, it ended up in that situation. I truly loved her,
Mm,
and she did not love me,
yeah.
especially at the end. I She probably never watched this, so I can be honest. She told me she wanted to marry me. I got on a plane to visit my family here in Germany. Before I even came back 3 weeks later, she found someone else, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
was like, I just really love him and he's so special. And,
Hmm.
there's like so much of me that is like envious of that guy
Yeah.
and like jealous and like, but if I really loved her, like I say I do, like I think or thought I did,
Hmm.
then I should have just been happy that she found someone that she loved like that,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
and I think that's a big thing about like love is like, if they don't love you, can you still be happy for them to find someone?
Yep.
I'm not in that place yet. That's maybe some like room for improvement.
Yeah. My mind's going a couple different places, but there's a country song, Jaren something or other, and it's called "Pray for You." I think I've had you listen to it, but it's basically like starts off with, "I haven't been to church since I don't know, I don't remember when, and my girl broke up with me, and my pastor says pray for them, and then it's like, I pray your brakes go out going 95. I pray a
Yeah,
flower pot falls from the windowsill and cracks you in the head like I'd like to. uh but
yeah.
anyway, sorry, that's horrible.
No,
It's
but I think it's for most people pretty natural, right? Like,
yeah.
there's also some expectation tied to it, like you expect to get that happy ending.
But there's
And
there's
life is a
also,
lot more messy than the movies.
yeah, there's also a level of, is is that person who chose somebody else really going to be happier with that person rather than me. Like that sort of envious comes into
Well,
play there.
if you really love them, shouldn't you hope that was the case?
Oh, yes, but at the same time,
Reality wise, I've never been able to get to this. You know, I
yeah,
hope that it's
yeah,
horrible and I hope they break their heart, you know. But that's me being a flawed human. But
right,
now, like, hearing that, like, selfless love thing, if you love them, shouldn't you be happy for them and
yeah,
hope for the best? You know, and
yeah,
you know, it's hit or miss in all these things. You know, like sometimes they meet someone and you know it's a spark, and as soon as like the mundane life kicks in and everyday life hits them, you
mhm,
know, they fall out of infatuation, love, lust, whatever it is, as
yeah,
you know, kind of the shine wears off of it. Sometimes it really is, you know, then like something that lasts. I have a friend who always told me, he's like, whatever they do to the ex, they'll do to the next.
mm.
So
Yeah.
that's
You know, there, there
words to
there's
live by.
there's also relationships that have ended in train wrecks. Like I had an ex cheat on me, and
Yeah,
um, and so it's like I don't know, like I don't know that I've ever thought I wish the best for that person. You know, I'm just like I'm just done with that person is the thought
yeah,
process.
yeah,
And I don't want to have that person be a part of my life anymore in any regard. So,
yeah. Yeah,
um
no, I think about that a lot, you know, because for me, it was something extremely hard to accept, and I feel a bit uncomfortable saying this on the podcast, but I do feel like it has value being said. So
okay.
there's a bit of internal conflict, but like I still love that girl that did all that shit to me,
Yeah.
and I probably always will.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not necessarily like time heals all wounds
Yeah.
in that sense. You know, sometimes like when we go through real heartbreak, you kind of end up growing like a second heart that helps
Yeah.
you like love in a different way.
Mhm.
And the pain doesn't really go away. It dulls a little bit.
Yeah.
But we carry that kind of pain with us. Even when you get over like the betrayal and like move on and you learn to trust like other people, you know, there's still part of that like scar tissue
Yeah.
that's left behind. And, you know, I thought about her recently quite often because of some circumstances that I don't want to get into here.
Sure.
But also with like it was her birthday recently and other things that I can mention. But you know, I was thinking about that too. I was like, I had so much love for her, but when that love became unrequited, it turned into bitterness and envy
Yeah.
more so than anything else.
Yep.
And I think like even though it goes against a lot in my body, you know, and like there's so much of me that was like wanted to like scream at her and be like, "Hey, like wake up. We have something special. Like how can you throw this all away?" You know.
Right.
That's my perception of it and my perspective of it. In reality, you know, that could be true, it could be false,
Right.
but she made a decision, and if I love that person, like thinking about that I want to say agave, but it's not agave. Agave is like a plant. That
Agape.
agape.
Yeah.
That selfless love is like, okay, I hope you're happy and I
Yeah.
hope everything works out well, and meaning it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there one day.
Yeah. I think Um, okay. So here's another question. Do you believe
Five
in?
hour podcast.
I know, right? But
I'm
this is
down.
the same the same level that we were just talking about. Do you
Okay.
believe in the one?
Ooh, I used to.
Oh,
I used to.
okay.
Yeah. I
Talk
remember
to me.
my first first real girlfriend. Like I thought she was the one, like it was like a movie, like time slowed down when she walked in the room
Yeah,
and everything. And maybe that was just a warning from the universe. Maybe that was like, oh, danger.
yeah.
Um, but like I had a tendency to fall in love with every pretty face that crossed my way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a sucker for a pretty smile more
Yeah,
so, and like a girl with a sense of humor. And I don't know, there's so much of me that thought with any girl that I fell in love with that like, oh, this is the one, you
yeah,
know. The one for what? The
yeah.
one for now? The one for this chapter of my life?
Mm-hmm.
The one for this lesson that I need to learn?
Mm-hmm.
The one is pretty fucking vague. The
Yeah.
one forever? Probably, at least not yet, like
Well,
it's also
when I would say this person's the one, I think that means I'm gonna end up marrying her and we're gonna spend the rest of my life. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with her.
yeah, I think that's like the traditional sense of and like the meaning of it. Um, yeah, I guess like every time that I thought that it didn't work out, and the fact that there's been like two, three, women that I had that thought about just really shows me that like
Your ignorance.
ignorant, naive,
Yeah.
also is like, man, I have such a resentment towards like polygamy and like people with like open relationships. Because I'm like, there's part of me that is just like an emperor penguin. Like, I just want to be with like one person and have like
Mm-hmm.
my person and that to be it. And then like,
Yeah.
but there are people that are just somehow okay with like being with many people at the same time,
Yeah.
you know? And like some people love in a way that isn't dependent on physical
Yeah.
exclusivity. That's like a fascinating subject where like I don't know, it bothers something within me that that's like a thing. But yeah, like I think that the one is also kind of like a movie book
Yep.
idea.
Yep.
Because
I
so
agree.
many like long-term relationships, sometimes people marry the one
Uh-huh.
and they make it to the very end,
Yep.
married 50 years or something.
Yep.
Sometimes they're married for 10 years, they have kids, they have great time, then things fall apart, they drift apart. Sometimes it's amicable, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Then they find someone else later on in life, and it's like, I don't know. I think that we go through phases and chapters and we become multiple people throughout our lifetime.
Yeah.
And as we change, it's very rare that you find someone that's going to change with you multiple times. And I mean, my path has diverged and twisted and turned so many times. It wouldn't really have worked with those people besides
Yeah.
me,
You're right.
you know? And so, like, solitude and isolation was necessary for a lot of these things to happen. And I do
Yeah.
think that I came out better for it.
Yeah.
So, what the next chapters of my life bring, I have no idea. But this one is definitely learning to, like, love myself. I
Yeah.
think that is a good foundation to love someone else
Uh-huh.
because like that idea of like I don't need to be with you, I want to be with you.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of times in relationships where I felt like I needed to be with that person. And that's a lot of
Uh,
pressure, you know?
yeah. Well, I think before I mean honestly though, like any long-term relationship almost inevitably I mean I think it's nearly impossible to not go from I want this person to I need this person. Like this person becomes a part of your life. And yes, you don't need them to stay in your life, but they're such a big part of it. Like imagine having kids and they're like yeah, you don't need them
I think the
ever.
healthiest type of relationship that I see or understand right now is that if someone walks out the door, you would be just as okay. You'd miss them, you'd grieve them a little bit, but that you'd be absolutely okay if they were in your life or not in your life.
I
And then
disagree.
it would be the same for them too. Like I think that like if you can enhance your guys' lives and you enjoy spending time together and you want them to be there,
Yeah.
that it's wonderful. But as soon as you're dependent on people to that degree, like it just never seems to work out well.
Yeah. Um Jake he's a double amputee that I had on my podcast a little while ago. He said this when it came to helping other people in wheelchairs. He said, "Hey, ah man, I really wish I need to like write this down because it's such a profound quote that he said. But it's something along the lines of it's okay to help them once they've done what they it's okay to help somebody do something that they can do themselves once they themselves have already done it 100 times over.
Yeah.
um and so it basically goes along the lines of like, hey, we were kind of talking about like you don't want to help somebody who you don't want to deprive somebody of their independence by helping them too much. And that's where that
Yeah.
kind of stemmed from. And so one of the things is, I don't know. I think in a relationship you have to blend together, and without that person, you walking away is going to be a huge break in you being whole. And I think that's
Yeah.
acceptable.
No, I get what you're saying. I just think that you should choose each other and not need each other. And I mean that more in like, not that you don't rely on each other and not that you don't care for each other, but it
Sure.
should be that like I don't know, it's like long-term relationships are a choice. There's always going to be another shiny option out there. There's always going to be another
You're
spark or a
right.
small infatuation.
You're
But
absolutely
like
right.
the people that stay together for a really long time, they choose each other
Yeah.
through like thick and thin.
Yes.
And like don't throw things away when it's not working, but like actually work on things and keep it going.
Yes.
And like the things that I've observed, a lot of people just kind of throw relationships away when it's not working. When they go through like a rough patch, it's just out the window. And nowadays, like we all have so many options. Things like Tinder and Instagram and stuff. There's 100 people in the DMs at all times,
Yep.
where you're just like, I think for women, for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, a bit more so than for men.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people that are like kind of aiming to take your place. I think my ideal type nowadays would be one without a social media account,
Yeah. Yeah.
like without a cell phone. We'll just have walkie talkies. I'll get rid of
Yeah.
mine too.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't have all the answers to this. I'm a hopeless romantic in the sense that
Yeah.
like I'm hopeless about romance.
Yeah.
Like that shit got beaten out of me 25,000 different ways, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
happy for anyone
curious.
that finds it, but
Yeah,
I don't see it in my future, to be honest.
I'm curious because like the needing part, um I mean, like in the traditional sense of marriage, you were it's till death do us part, right? And at that point, if death, if it's till death do us part, I think it's 100% acceptable to be so ingrained into someone's life that you need them. How now? Here's the flip side of that. I worked as a banker, and I had customers who had a significant other pass away, and
Mm,
they had no idea how to do anything banking related, and
yeah,
they they started from scratch. So I mean, even if
that
you,
happens quite often.
yeah, it does. And so like, yeah, you know what, you should be set up in such a way that you can walk away. I think I support that to an extent, especially in a situation where a significant other's life passes away, or when they pass away. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. That's an
I guess I
interesting
just
thought.
see it more as like a partner in crime,
Yeah,
you know? You
yeah,
stand on even footing. You guys choose to be together
yeah,
and you move forward in life through things. But like if you love yourself enough, like I don't think it's possible to love someone and be with someone, and if it doesn't work out, to not feel sad about it. You know, I
yeah,
think that's illogical, and
right,
that's not really what I meant. But
yeah,
like the codependency, neediness, clinginess, you know, to
yep,
be okay, also to be apart, you know, and
yeah.
spend time apart, you know,
I think that's
to
healthy
have
too.
individual interests,
Yeah,
and
I
you
support
know, I
that.
think that's more what I meant, and that
Yeah,
with not needing each other, but you know, choosing each other.
yep, I agree with that. I like it. All right, we're at 3:41. I think we're definitely past. You've surpassed my largest, my longest podcast for sure.
Yeah, I
I
would say let's go for 4 hours, but I'm at 14%.
oh, okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's midnight here, so it's getting too late, man.
Oh, you getting sleepy?
Yeah, I'm getting sleepy. All right, let me do my outro and then we can end
I'm gonna
this.
take y'all to see the
See the
full
light,
daylight outside.
full daylight.
That's
Um,
that's what Germany's like right now.
yeah. All right, everybody. Well, so first of all, Alex, thank you once again for joining. It's been a great conversation. I can't wait for many more of these to come, and I can't wait for like you to be on with some other guests as well, like Ryan or Matt or whoever else. So,
That'd be
it
amazing.
sounds like we've got some other ideas for other podcasts too. So, can you
Well, the
please
way that
move
we're
to
going through these
Cincinnati?
question, we'll have to do like at least like 7 parts of these to go through all
Yeah.
the questions.
Yeah, exactly. We went through like 3 of yours and like yeah, very few. I love it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Rolling Forward podcast. Actually, real quick, Alex, do you want to point anybody to anywhere like on your socials or anything like that, or we good?
Drink water, go to the gym.
All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Rolling Forward podcast. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, subscribe, or drop a comment. I want to hear what keeps you rolling forward, or maybe you have my next t shirt idea, or something that you heard today that stuck with you. I'm for it all. If you want to see more shirts like the one I'm wearing, this says leg day, says leg day with a guy in a wheelchair. If you want to see more shirts like the one I'm wearing, I did not create this one. It's not on my store, but you can get this one on Amazon. But you can find my other designs over at rollingforward.printful.me. And if you've got and if you've got a story worth sharing and fits the theme of what we're doing here, I'd love to hear from you. You could be my next podcast guest. Until next time, keep rolling forward.
Oh yeah, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if this gets enough likes, maybe Wheels will post the Lost podcast that we
The
did.
lo- the Lost podcast, yeah. All right, everybody.
Have a good day, good night.